Amity University, to kindly welcome our distinguished speakers of this technical session, Dr. Manoj K. Patel, Principal Scientist, CSIR Organization Chandigarh, Dr. Komal Chauhan, Head of Department, Food Science and Technology. Okay. 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 So I request our chairperson, sir, to kindly welcome our. Okay. I request our co-chairperson, Dr. Monica Thakur, Associate Professor, Amity Institute of Food Technology, Amity University, to welcome our speaker. A very good afternoon to everyone present here. I welcome our first speaker of the day. So Dr. Manoj Patel has received his BTech degree from NIT Jamshedpur and completed his PhD from Academy of Scientific and Innovative Research. He is currently working as Principal Scientist in CSIO Chandigarh. Dr. Patel has started his research career in charged particulate technology and aerodynamics of charged particulate matter. His current research interests are electrostatic liquid atomization, airborne charged particulate technology, surface decontamination, food safety and nutrition, green energy, and robotic system of agriculture task for social innovation. Dr. Patel has 3 patents, 1 design registration, and several research articles in refereed journals. He is a project leader of various national and international projects funded by various agencies like CSR, SUB, IDP, NIF, DST, Government of India, and industries. He has transferred 8 technologies, know-how to various industries for commercial production and created 3 startups. Dr. Patel has received several awards. The most prominent one are BRICS Young Scientist Award 2022, CSR Young Scientist Award 2020, IEI Young Engineer Award 2019, Gandhian Young Technological Innovation Award 2016, and many more. He is a member of various professional societies such as National Academy of Sciences, India, the Institution of Engineers, Indian Society of Agriculture Engineers, etc. He is serving as a member of International Advisory Board, Polytechnic, Portugal, and a member of Board of Studies, National Institute of Technology, NIT Jamshedpur. So we are privileged to have you, sir. Shall I start your presentation, sir? Shall I start? Okay.
Hello. Hello. There is another PPT in the form of PPTs also there. One is PDF and one is in normal PPT. So you can open the normal PPT in some other folder. Manoj 2023. Another folder. Another folder. So how to make forward backward? Someone is having, yeah, okay. I can start. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. So, good afternoon, all. First of all, I thank organizer and Amity University for giving me the opportunity to represent and interact with you all. So, today's topic is something little bit different. First of all, when I was listening these guys, and I thought I'm in wrong place because I'm not food technologist, I'm not scientist, I'm a pure electronic guy, okay, engineer. So I thought I'm in wrong place. But once I saw multidisciplinary. So my lab is interdisciplinary and applied research. So what we do, we translate science into technology. So today I will be talking about some, you can say, innovative technology, that is electrostatic spraying technology, which has varied applications. So we started this work way back 5 to maybe 7 to 8 years back. I am from CSIO Chandigarh, that is one of the CSIR lab. So I am going to tell you how you do a research in lab and how to translate into industry. Okay. So the technology name is electrostatic spraying technology. Basically, next slide, man. Basically, it is having varied applications from taking from agriculture, environment, food safety and nutrition, thin film deposition, and air pollution control. Varied application. So if you see this slide, in right side, all the technologies have been transferred to industry, but in left side, it is a recent work which is going on. That is safety, aerial electrostatic spraying technology, and so on. Okay. So the next. Yeah, thank you so much. This is better. So once I have control, then it will be better. Yeah. Okay. PPT mode just okay. So making PPT mode for yeah. This is forward. Next. By back. Yeah. No, no. Okay. Okay. Sorry, restriction. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So yeah, sorry for interruption. So first of all, you should know that what is electrostatic spraying. You all know spraying. Whenever you liquid or stream converted into droplets, it's called spraying. Either it is agriculture pesticide spraying or it is environmental pollution control. If you see the device in third number, you all see in Delhi to control in for pollution control. You all know this device, that is a smoke control device. Okay, you can see in Delhi, it is hugely used by these demolition and construction companies because that is a mandatory by Supreme Court. So this is technology what we have transferred in 2019 to Cloud Tech Private Limited, and you can see this technology in the market. So what is electrostatic spraying? There is nothing special about it. You are putting one electrode in front of that nozzle and you are applying the high voltage in the range of maybe 2000 volts, and depending on the application it goes up to 40 kilovolt, yani 40,000 volts. Okay, so you are putting one electrode you are putting one electrode in front of the nozzle and you apply high voltage. So once you apply high voltage, it charges the droplets. Okay, the charged droplets are more efficacious to go up to the target because there is a lot of losses in between nozzle to target. So once you charge the droplets, you can control the trajectory of those droplets. Okay, so we want to deposit in certain specific area, only the charge droplets will go there. There is a huge, you can say, reduced off target losses. So you can increase the efficiency. So what happens once you charge the droplets, the electrostatic force works. So there are another, you can say, disadvantageous force like gravitational force, drag force, and there are other forces which is overcome by these electrostatic forces. So this is a best way to transport the droplets to target. Okay, so this is what electrostatic spraying is. So what happens in electrostatic spraying? You are reducing the charge, you are reducing the droplet size. For example, you take example of 500 micron droplets, which is produced by normal conventional sprayer. Okay, now you are converting this charge droplets into 50 micron droplet. Can you tell me how many droplets will be generated with 500 micron droplet to 50 micron droplet? Any guess? This is a mathematical calculation. 500 micron droplets converted into 50 micron droplet. How many droplets will generate? 1000. 4 by 3 pi r cube, r1 by r2 whole cube. Volumetric, you change volumetric. So the place where one droplet was going, that is 500 micron, you are generating 1000 droplets. So just imagine there is an insect pest control, you are spraying the pesticide. Now there was no guarantee that one droplet will go to that leaf and will stay on that. It will fall down on the ground. It will generate huge pollution or soil pollution. So you are converting into 1000 droplets from one droplet. So there is a huge increase in bioefficacy. Okay. So similarly, we will be using in food coatings. Next, I will be talking about. I am just introducing what is electrostatic spraying. You are reducing the droplets. So if you are depositing on fruits and vegetables, so the thickness is reduced. Okay. So in that way, you will be able to reduce the material consumption almost 50 to 60%. This is revolutionary kind of work. You are reducing either it is pesticide or it is water or it is food material or anything. You are reducing almost 50 to 60%. I will prove it in some next slide. So this is electrostatic spraying. And another advantage is that when you spray, these charged droplets travel on their, you can say, field lines. Okay, so it covers back side of the target. So nowhere the space where there is a chances of any pest or insect or if the material is not reaching that target. So it is almost 90 to 95% efficient than normal conventional any kind of spraying. Okay, so there are certain mechanisms which are used to charge the droplets. There are 3 mechanisms majorly. Fourth is little bit not useful for that. So the first is induction charging. Induction charging means, yeah. So the first mechanism is induction charging. In induction charging, you just see this figure. It is not touching the object, but it is inducing the charge on another body. So in this case, you require less amount of high voltage. But in case of conduction charging, you see it is just touching the object and transferring the charge. So I am just explaining how to charge the coating material for the fruits and vegetables. This is another mechanism that is used in electrospinning and other methods. So now I am coming to the exactly where I wanted to go in food coatings. Okay, in food coatings, the droplet size matters. When you dip, there is a lot of methods available like dip coating, fluidized bed methods, and drip coating. So if you see this spray coating, you have to control the droplet size. Okay, and by this method, we can generate a droplet size even 5 micron to 10 micron. You will not be able to achieve this size droplets by any of the method available in the market or in. So if you control this high voltage and air pressure, you will be able to control the droplet size. Okay, so depending on the application, like it is agriculture, something size droplet size required. For environment control, some other droplet size is required. So if you see this previous slide, there are droplet size and the application, agriculture, environment, food safety, or some other application. So everything requires different droplet size. So yeah, so there are various methods. This technology has gone various challenges, various optimization, and there are so now this technology is available in the market. Okay, so now I'm coming to exactly what I'm here: the food safety and nutrition. So we have developed electrostatic coating system to coat the fruits and vegetable to enhance the shelf life as well as nutritional value depending on the material what we are using. So there are various methods available, dip coating and other methods, which are not, you can say, efficient. Or right now in India, there is not a lot of coating is being done, but slowly it is coming into the practice. So if you see, before starting any work, we do a lot of technology landscape market survey. So अगर कोई भी साइंस करता है तो उस साइंस का अल्टीमेट गोल क्या होना चाहिए वो आपको शुरू से ही आपको प्रैक्टिस में लाना पड़ता है. आप कोई साइंस या कोई वर्क करना चाह रहे हैं, अगर उसका आफ्टर 5 years you have developed something and there is no taker of any market potential, so what will happen to that? So before you start any project or something, you do a lot of market research, technology landscape. So something we have done that. Okay, so I will explain in terms of edible material versus coating methods, edible coatings versus country wise or something. So if you see this, we have taken 35 patents and analyzed it, how it is, what is the scenario in current time. So see this focus based on edible materials. If you see most of the things in the field of chitosan or some carbohydrate based, or you can say lactic acid, starch based, polysaccharide, something like that. So these are the technology scenario right now, which is available in the market. But let me clear you, no company is providing electrostatic spray coating right now. There is one technology USA based, that is a Teronic Development Corporation. So there is a single company which is providing this commercial product of electrostatic coating system. We are the first, second in all over world, and the first in India to develop such type of product. So if you see method versus, you can say, material. So electrospinning having lot of scope. There are almost 14 to 15 patents are available in the in this field. But in electrostatic spray coating, there is no patent. So that's why we started this work 2 years back. In 2020, we have done patent, Indian patent, then gone to US patent and EP, in EP countries. So this is country method of coating versus edible material. Most of the coating materials are coated by electrospinning and other dip coating and all. But there is no spray coating again. So geographical distribution, if you say, most of the work has been done in China and USA and another countries, but they have just a patent and no commercialized product is available. So what we have done, we have developed this technology, and majorly to develop this technology, there are three aspects. One is material, one is technology development, and one is characterization after coating. So we were working on all three fronts. We are working on edible coating materials as well as developed technology. We have already developed this technology. Right now we are working on edible coating materials. So because the companies are looking the complete solution, material as well as the technology. Otherwise, no one is asking for the only technology or only for the material. So they are asking for complete solution. So we are working with CFTRI as well as Navi, Mohali for materials and other projects. So yes, we have worked on four or five types of fruits and vegetable used for coating and assess that you can say shelf life. So you see, this is the specification of this developed technology: flow rate, applied voltage, what is the voltage required for this to work, droplet size, you can generate 15 to 30 micron droplets. And if you see, these are the facilities that we have for this particular project. We have all the facilities But for this particular project, we have all the characterization techniques, taking from rheometer to O2 CO2 analyzer and everything. So these are the few things that after coating or before coating, you use these instruments, texture analyzer and other things. So if you see the thickness of coating and the roughness of the coating, we can generate a thickness of 9 to 12 micron thickness coating. That is not possible in dip coating. In dip coating, almost 30, 40, up to going up to 80 micron thickness coating of coating material. But here we can reduce it to 9 to 12 micron, depending on the material, viscosity and other properties. So if you see this material reduction, you can reduce almost 50 to 60% of the material. In all, we have assessed for per quintal. Okay, in 1 quintal we have used for dip coating as well as electrostatic spray coating. So you just see all kind of spray methods. Sorry. So you see, there is a in dip coating, if you are using 6 to 7 liter coating material, but in electrostatic spray coating, almost 2 to 3 liter required. So we have used on tomatoes, and the shelf life, I am coming to shelf life. We can increase shelf life almost double or 2.5 times or something like that by using same material which is available commercially in the market as well as our material, developed material, almost 3 times or maybe 2.5 times or something, in some cases 2 times. Even in electrostatic spray coating, you spray for disinfection purposes. It is increasing the life because you are not touching any commodities by hand, and this high voltage is killing the bacteria and micro organism. Okay, so even if you just wash with this technique, it is increasing the shelf life. So these are oranges, almost. This is a comparative study. If you go to absolute value, it will be more, not 21 days or like that. It is just a comparison between dip coating and electrostatic spray coating. We use for mandarin and we use for apples. You just see the shelf life in comparison to other coating techniques, almost doubled or something like that. So yes, right now we are going to work on some exciting project, and if someone is willing to collaborate, we are working on 3D printing for foods, customized food, which will be future of in coming time. Many countries, especially USA, has developed some kind of product recently, and but not it is very new work. It's going on from 2006, but in India there is not a single work on 3D electrostatic 3D printing. We will be using this electrostatic technique on 3D printing, which is not available till now. So we have started already. Okay, so in coming time you will be getting customized food. You are tired from your office and you are on the way, you have a mobile app, you just type what you want to eat with how many nutrition, what is the carbs and etc. You just give a order, you will be having your printer at your home, it will give you a food. So this is something we are going to work, and we are already working. So this is from my side. Thank you so much. This is my team. We have, and any scientist or any professor is flourishing because of their student. So we have a very good student in my lab. So this is team that I have in my lab. So this is from my side, and thank you so much once again. So let us have a question answer, and I will be happy to answer that.
Okay. Session is open for questions. So if anyone have any confusion, they may ask her.
Yeah. Now, your question is very good. Basically, this is something different from this presentation. It depends on coating material. Right now, some wax coating are available. And 2 years back there was a news because some food was reached to that food consumer minister and there was huge news. नॉर्मल आदमी खाए कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, वो मिनिस्टर के घर पहुंच गया था, उसमें थिकनेस ज्यादा थी या सम रेजिड्यू लेवल ज्यादा था, तो बहुत ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम हुई थी. सो अभी भी हम शायद भूलते हैं, बट स्टिल पीपल से दैट इट इज नॉट ईटेबल. सो ओनली वैक्स कोटिंग आर राइट नाउ अवेलेबल. Eatable coatings are still not in the market, you can say. Maybe some other expert on that will advise you. But of course, you have to wash. But right now, people are working on eatable coating. You eat biodegradable. There is no harmful effect of that. गर्म पानी से धुलते हैं नॉर्मली. पानी से, गर्म पानी से ज्यादा बेटर है, नहीं तो नॉर्मल पानी से भी. बट ऑफ कोर्स जैसे एप्पल है, उसका जहां पर वो नवचा लगा होता है, जहां से तो लगा होता है, वहां धुलना आई गेस पॉसिबल नहीं है. तो खाते हैं, सब लोग तो खाते हैं, बट हर चीज खाई जा सकती है, बट एक लेवल है उसका. अगर उससे ज्यादा हो गया तो प्रॉब्लम है. तो अगर थोड़ा बहुत वैक्स जा भी रहा है, सॉरी सर, नो प्रॉब्लम. अगर थोड़ा बहुत वैक्स जा भी रहा है तो शायद, आई डोंट थिंक सो, न्यूट्रिशन वाले ज्यादा बेटर वे में या जो टॉक्सिकोलॉजी वाले हैं बेटर वे में समझा सकते हैं. ओके, थैंक यू.
Any other question?
Yeah. तुम्हारे क्वेश्चन का आंसर तो मेरे थोड़ा सा स्कोप से बाहर है. प्रेजेंटेशन के पहले ही मैंने बोला था, आई एम नॉट ए फूड साइंस बायोटेक्नोलॉजिस्ट और फूड साइंस. तो मैं मटेरियल में ज्यादा कमेंट नहीं करूंगा. ओके, इफ यू वांट टू आस्क ऑन टेक्नोलॉजी और हाउ द परफॉर्मेंस और समथिंग, आई कैन आंसर. Which to yeah. The graph, I don't think so. Okay. That is a high voltage for charging the material, not for zeta potential. That is not a zeta potential. In spray, you are applying the charge to charge the droplets. This is not a zeta potential.
Okay.
The charge present on the droplets which are going to spray, that voltage वो वैसा था, ये नहीं है.
So what is the concept, like the material, for example, is tomato is there and we are spraying on it, so the charge should be opposite or the charge should be similar. What is the concept behind it? Basically
this is okay. This is my field. Okay, so basically अभी इसमें रिसर्च होना और भी बाकी है कि जब आप हाई वोल्टेज अप्लाई करते हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल काइटोसन लिया, सर्टेन कंपोजिशन है, हाई वोल्टेज से क्या वो चेंज तो नहीं हो जा रहा. अब अगर कंपोजिशन ही चेंज हो गया तो ऑफकोर्स उसका कोटिंग का शायद कुछ और ही हो जाएगा. ठीक है, सो ये हमारी स्टडी चल रही है कि कोई सर्टेन कंपोजिशन का मटेरियल है एंड वी आर अप्लाइंग विद दिस इलेक्ट्रो स्प्रे. ओके, सो कंपोजिशन इज नॉट चेंजिंग, सो वी हैव टू इंश्योर दैट एंड दिस स्टडी इज गोइंग ऑन. ओके, ऑफ कोर्स आप हाई वोल्टेज अप्लाई करते हैं तो मटेरियल का कंपोजिशन चेंज होगा. ठीक है, फॉर एग्जांपल इन पेस्टिसाइड, आप यू टेक एग्जांपल ऑफ पेस्टिसाइड, आप फास्फेट या अनदर पेस्ट कंट्रोल पेस्ट डालते हैं तो उसमें भी हाई वोल्टेज अप्लाई करते हैं, ऑफ कोर्स उसका कंपोजिशन चेंज होने के चांसेस है. बट जब इसमें जो ये मेथड है, इसमें निगेटिवली चार्ज ड्रॉपलेट आ रही है और जो सरफेस है वो नॉर्मली इधर वो जमीन पे रखा होता है या किसी पॉकेट में रखा होगा, कहीं भी हो रहा है, वो जीरो पोटेंशियल पे माना जाता है. ओके, तो वंस दिस नेगेटिवली चार्ज ड्रॉपलेट इज गोइंग नियर बाय दिस सरफेस, नॉट इज टचिंग, सो it induces the charge in that surface. Okay. And now it attracts.
Okay.
So it attracts basically. So opposite charge is there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So like you have mentioned, it has have a shelf life of 31 days.
Yeah.
So it extends from 5 to 6 days.
Yeah.
So that is because of that the charge which is able to sustain for like longer period of the time, and the coating is able to
aspect also.
Okay.
There is another aspect also कि आपका जो coating है उसका जो थिकनेस होता है, जो अभी कन्वेंशनल मेथड आते हैं, इतना ज्यादा होता है कि आपका O2 CO2 रेस्पिरेशन ही रुक जाता है। तो आप कभी कभी देखेंगे एप्पल खाते हैं, ऊपर से तो बिल्कुल चमकता हुआ रेड कलर का होता है, जब आप घर में काटते हैं अंदर खराब भी होता है। तो हम थिकनेस कंट्रोल कर रहे हैं, और वो जो मिनिमम रेजिड्यू लेवल की बात हो रही है ना, उसको भी इनडायरेक्ट में वो कंट्रोल कर रहे हैं। देखिए अगर हार्मफुल भी है, आप वैक्सकोटिक भी खा रहे हैं, तो शायद ज्यादा हार्मफुल नहीं होगा। ओके,
थैंक यू सर।
एनीथिंग?
Sir, there is one question. Yes, sir. Manoj, sir.
Go ahead.
To this side, yes.
Sorry.
So I think you have shown something about the antiviral properties also, effect upon the viruses. So please,
Okay, so that is something, another area, that is disinfection technology we have worked on during this COVID time. Okay, the second technology was in the figure, electrostatic disinfection device. During the COVID, there is a huge amount of chemical or some anything, जितना भी agricultural equipment था, COVID के टाइम पे सबको यूज किया गया, irrespective of it is suitable or not. So we have developed electrostatic disinfection device, which was transferred at that time to BHEL, Bright Water Solution, and one more company, and this is available in the market. Basically it kills the bacteria. Okay, और इनमें चार्ज होता है, कोई भी बैक्टीरिया या कोई भी पेस्ट है, उसमें कुछ ना कुछ चार्ज होता है. हाउ दिस पेस्ट और बैक्टीरिया इज governed by this charge droplets, वो उसमें involved है. तो suppose some is having negative charge around it or something, so you have to spray positively charged droplets. If it is positive, so COVID या कोरोना वायरस कोई बता सकता है उसमें चार्ज कैसा था? It is charge specific. कोई भी बैक्टीरिया कुछ भी होता है उसमें चार्ज होता है, कोई बता सकता है? So इसमें भी बहुत सारा स्टडी हुआ है. कोविड का जो वायरस होता है, कोरोना वायरस, उसमें भी चार्ज होता है. So if you spray something विदाउट चार्ज, तो हो सकता है वो ना मरे, बट आप जब चार्ज ड्रॉपलेट उसमें बम्बार्ड करते हैं या जब स्प्रे करते हैं तो उसका सर्वाइवल रेट बहुत कम है. बट हमने ये स्टडी ये की है कि डिफरेंट सरफेसेस में कैसे सर्वाइव करता है. इधर वुड है जो आप डेली टू डेली लाइफ में टच करते हैं, लाइक मेटल, फैब्रिक, वुड, प्लास्टिक, एनीथिंग. सो हाउ इट सर्वाइव, दैट वी हैव पब्लिश्ड वेरी रिसेंटली. ओके, थैंक यू.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir, for such an enlightening session on electrostatic spray coating system. I request HOI sir to kindly felicitate Dr. Manoj K. Patel with a memento and 2 gift hampers from Orica and Ambrosa. Orica and sir Ambrosa. Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Monica to kindly introduce our second speaker of the session. Yes, there is very important announcement for the poster presentation. Those who have not displayed their posters of technical session 1, please report to F1, F2 foyer. So those who have not displayed their posters, please report to F2 foyer. Yes, same, yes, sir. From where we have entered this F block. So you all have to report there immediately. It is So it is a proud privilege to introduce Dr. Chauhan, Dr. Komal Chauhan had the rare opportunity of being nurtured in varied regions and cultures of India, bringing out the best in her. She did her doctorate of food science and nutrition from Vanasthali University, Rajasthan. A meritorious student throughout her academic career, she had been a scholarship holder and gold medalist at master's level. She embarked on her teaching career from SD College, Ambala, Kent, and later to Vanasthali University. At present, she is working as Associate Professor in Nutrition in the Department of Food Science and Technology at NIFTM, Kundli, Sonipat. She has a teaching and research experience of more than 2 decades. She has published and presented several papers in national and international journals and conferences. She has been working in the area of nutraceuticals and functional food and nutritional biochemistry. She has been working in the areas of malnutrition and non-communicable diseases, namely diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, and obesity. She has worked on various projects sponsored by UNICEF, UGC, DST, DBT, MOFPI, and Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Welcome once again, ma'am. I think she's online. Yes. I request Dr. Komal to please switch on the camera. Komal, ma'am, please switch on the camera.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, clearly audible.
Yeah. Good morning. Can you please give me the right to share my presentation?
Yes, ma'am, give us 1 second. Yes, you have the right. Yes, you can share now.
Okay, is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am, the screen is visible.
Visible, but please make it full screen.
Yeah. Is it fine now?
Yes, ma'am, it's fine. Yes. Ma'am, please reduce a little bit. Actually, I think the later part is not visible.
Now is it okay?
It's not in the slideshow mode, actually.
No, it is in the slideshow.
It's a slideshow.
And please unshare and share again. And this time, please share your slide only. I mean, your PPT only.
Yeah, I'm sharing that only.
But yes, ma'am. Please share again, ma'am. Ma'am, first you need to make it full screen, then share your full screen slide.
Okay.
Yes.
Now is it okay?
Yes, ma'am. It's fine now. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. A very good afternoon to all. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers, the Vice Chancellor, Amity University, and the Department of Food Technology, Dr. Modi, and the organizing team for giving me the opportunity to talk on this platform. And I'm really sorry for last minute cancellation. I could not be present physically, and I have to be due to some commitments, I have to come virtually for this presentation. So I'll be talking on millets, a boon to mankind. So the outline of my presentation would be around the novel consumer trends about millets, the millet momentum, the role of millets, the processing, the green technologies, and the anti-nutritional factors, and the utilization and the advancement in the packaging, and the key takeaways from this presentation. First of all, a brief introduction about my institute, that NIFTM, National Institute of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management, is an institute of national importance. And this has been established by the Act of Parliament in 2021. Initially, it was deemed university under the Ministry of Food Processing Industries. It acts as a one-stop solution provider, and it is a center for global standards in the area of food technology and management. There are three pillars on which NIFTM is working. One is the knowledge, under which we generally impart education for different domains, BTech, MTech, and a doctorate degree. And we have a food agribusiness for MBA degree. And second pillar of NIFTM is innovation, under which we generally have an innovative approach for research and teaching. And we facilitate the learning through mind maps, role playing, and scenario analysis. And the third is the outreach. Third pillar, that is a very basic and a flagship program under which we take that program is Village Adoption Program, which is it is a part of the curriculum under which we adopt villages all over India, and wherein the faculty and the students go and stay in the villages. And we generally follow the experiential learning through our pilot plants. And basically, we have incubation centers also to establish a strong academia and industry linkages. Then we have a Center for Food Research Analysis, which is state-of-art, well-established analytical laboratory. Then Center of Excellence for Food Fortification for addressing the problems of malnutrition through scalable solutions. So coming back to our topic, like we all were talking about the food security. And to achieve this food security, we became over-reliant on the conventional cereal crops, that is wheat and rice, which basically led to the loss of diversity and the genetic pool. And what we were having these indigenous crops, we generally, the shift from these indigenous crops to these conventional cereal crops resulted in marginalization of and underutilization of our indigenous crops. And like after independence also, like 75 years of our independence, we are still facing the problems of malnutrition and hidden hunger or micronutrient deficiencies, and anemia is still prevalent. More than 60% people, especially the vulnerable section, the pregnant women and the ladies and the adolescents, are suffering from anemia. And there, as I told, hidden hunger, there is a persistent deficiency of micronutrients, and even the protein deficiency can also be seen more than 80% in our population. So our modern food system isn't supporting or setting up for the nutritional success. That is the SDG have been set up, that is the Sustainable Development Goals, which now we've shifted from food security to food and nutritional security. But are we really able to achieve this nutritional security? So for that, we need to rediscover and reinvent our utilization of these underutilized grains, and the revival of those grains which basically that was lost long way and result into the genetic crop diversity. So we again shift to the hardy crop plants, which can be like grow in poor soils at high temperatures and low rainfall also, and which will not bring about any kind of substantial or deliberate genetic changes. So that can basically result into the diversification of the food sources and agriculture systems for food security and food sustainability. Besides that, like these crops also leave comparatively lesser carbon footprints and lesser use of the fertilizers as well as the irrigation facilities. So synthetic fertilizers are not used and pest-free crops are there. They are now, initially it was stigmatized as a poor man's diet, but now if we go to the market and we want to purchase these millets, we find that these millets are pretty much costlier than the normal conventional crops or the cereals. That is, so from that poor man's diet, they are considered as the super crops or the nutri cereals. So coming on to the novel consumer trends, we need to fix all the ailments that can be actually prevented through the food, and we are shifting more towards the restricted and the customized diets, and either the gluten-free foods, value-based paleo diets, or the organic foods and some fasting foods to reduce or maintain the weight. So these are the, basically we have shifted from a traditional diets that were rich in fiber to these restricted diets, or maybe just because the prevalence of the chronic diseases has increased and the nutrition transition from these traditional diets to high energy foods that were rich in refined flours or high in refined sugars or fat resulted into this, that we now need to shift on these customized diets. So as the demand for these gluten-free diets have been increasing, so nutrition smart agriculture is the need of the hour, where in millets basically fit in directly. They can actually bring that market from 12 billion USD by 2025 with a CAGR of 4.8% during 22 to 27. So for that, we need to create the millet hubs and the mega food parks, and basic emphasis of the government of India is like we need to focus on the locally produced millets. So the millet momentum talks about we need to gain momentum and we need to focus on the processing and the manufacturing of the value-added products from these millets, which can basically double the farmer's income also. And basic important part of this is that significant processing and value addition is the need of the hour, where we need to have the cost effective infrastructure and the production of these at a larger scale without altering the nature and the taste of these grains. So we all need to partner and come together at a common platform to have this multi-stakeholder intervention where farmers, the processors and the policy makers, they need to strengthen the channel that is from farm to fork and involving the local cultivators, so that the another part that is to double the farmer's income and to make the food available locally, that is also achieved. So there comes the nutrition smart agriculture to fulfill all the parameters from the farmer level to the final consumer level. And since it is a year of millets, International Year of Millets have been defined, 2023 has been defined, and India ranks first in the global millet production, about 30.39 million tons in 2020, with the global export grew from 44.8%, that was in 2018 to 19, and as I told, it is expected to grow by 12 billion. So India is a key player and contributes to nearly 20% of the global export value. Since 2023, as I mentioned earlier, is the International Year of Millets, and now we need to talk about the nutritional benefits for the smart consumer, so that ultimately the consumer is benefited and we are able to at least delay the progression of these chronic diseases, which has taken a huge toll for the last few decades. So when we talk about millets, millets have been classified into the major minor millets, and as we all know, there are three major millets, and then we have little millets, about 6 to 7 categories. This is the list of the major and the minor millets. And when we talk about the nutritional profiling, we see that entire species of the millets, if we see from the protein content varies from 8.4 to 15%, whereas carbohydrate content varies from 69 to 76%, and the fat content from 1.4 to 5.1%, with ash content, that is the mineral content, 1.1 to 3.4%, and the fiber content 8 to 18.2%. So it is a plethora of all macro and micronutrients. So they can be used as a magic superfoods or the magic foods or the magic bullets, nutri-bullets, where in a concise amount of in balanced proportion, we are getting the nutrients that can be actually used for improving the nutritional status of the individuals who are consuming them. So they are basically, some of the millets are considered as a grain of life also, and the major source of proteins and energy in the Asian and African diaspora. Then the compositional profile, as I mentioned, the carbohydrates basically that are present has a high content of fiber and complex carbohydrates with resistant starch with a low glycemic index, and the soluble fiber contains 3.4 to 6.5%. And the fatty acid profile varies from 4 to 7%, especially in the pearl millet or the bajra that is majorly consumed in northern India. And it's out of this 4 to 7%, 75% that is present as unsaturated fatty acids, and that is also a problem for limited intake of these pearl millet, because the moment we mill the pearl millet into the flour tends to become rancid within a span of very short period of time, maybe 10 or 15 days. Then it is a very good source of proteins. Talking about like the pearl millet itself, if we see the biological value of the pearl millet protein is 83% with a digestibility coefficient of 89%, and the PER protein efficiency rate is 1.43, which is much higher than the wheat, that is 1.27. It is a good source of all the essential amino acids. And talking about the micronutrients, it is a good source of all these trace minerals also, like iron, magnesium, copper, sodium, and phosphorus. Ragi millet or the finger millet is also a good source of calcium. Besides this, we have biofortified varieties of the pearl millets also that are high in iron and zinc that have been developed by Equisite. It is a good source of B vitamins plus the bioactive components. And the gamma aminobutyric acid is also higher in foxtail millet and the barnyard. Then we have health benefits or the therapeutic value of these millets. If we look back maybe 30 to 40 years back, our ancestors were regularly consuming these millets. And if we compare their health index with the current generation, we see there is tremendous increase in the chronic diseases. So the health benefits that were conferred with the consumption of these millets was their anti-diabetic effect. They have hypolipidemic properties and probiotic properties also, because of having different antioxidant molecules or the bioactive profiling. And it has been proven that the regular consumption of these millets can actually regulates our metabolism of carbohydrates and the lipids. So there comes when they have a very good nutritional index and the therapeutic index. Then why we shifted over to the these conventional crops, though it was the need of the hour. That green revolution was very much needed during that period, because we were not able to feed the entire population. So that was the need. But at the same time, now there are different diseases coming up with the regular consumption of these conventional crops, especially the rice. India has been declared as diabetes capital of the world because of regular consumption of these the wheat and rice. At the same time, the gluten intolerance that was never seen in our country, now every second or third person you come across, there is a celiac patient in our homes, or gluten intolerance to certain levels can be seen in different people. There are besides having all the good things associated with millets, there are certain negative points also associated. Like there is some bitterness associated with this, for which it requires processing. The texture is comparatively coarse when we compare it with wheat. And there is, as I mentioned earlier, that pearl millet contains a good amount of the unsaturated fatty acids, and the moment we mill them, so the enzymes that are present, lipase in pearl millet, that is released, and it starts acting upon the fatty acids and or the triglycerides, and the release of the free fatty acids, which increases the rancidity. Besides that, it also contains several anti-nutritional factors, and which basically counter the acceptability for the consumption of these millets. Then there is shelf life in stability also. There are environmental factors, enzymatic and the microbial factors, which basically enhance the rancidity, maybe hydrolytic or oxidative rancidity, and the enzymes that are present, lipase and lipooxygenase, that make it rancid and make it unfit for human consumption, then gives the off odors or the off flavors also. And finally, there is less acceptability by the consumers. So there is an urgent need for the processing of these millets, maybe basic processing and the secondary processing. So primary processing involves the decortication and the milling. So decortication has the bioavailability or the bioaccessibility of this minerals basically is enhanced, but the total amount of mineral content may be decreased because the outer layers that are removed is a good source of these mineral content. Besides this, there is increase in the protein digestibility, but again, decortication also result into the reducing the fiber content, as well as some bioactive components are also lost during the primary processing. Then milling is another method by which we can produce different kinds of flours, as well as like grains can be processed for flaking and can be used for cooking like rice. Then we have secondary processing involves various methods by which value-added products can be prepared, like puffing, baking, milling, flaking, and the value-added products of the millets. And when we talk about the anti-nutritional factors, they are like naturally present in them, but during processing, what happens, like those anti-nutritional factors that are present, maybe phytates, tannins, protein inhibitors like trypsin inhibitors, chymotrypsin inhibitors, or the saponins or the hemogglutinins, they generally interfere with the absorption of the other nutrients. So when during processing or basic processing, maybe like soaking or germination, that can reduce the anti-nutritional effects. So depending upon which millet we are using, so basic processing techniques need to be implemented, which can reduce the anti-nutritional effects and which will enhance the bioavailability of the other nutrients also. The primary and secondary processing, like for example, phytates can be easily removed by soaking the grains, fermentation, germination, and during milling, like abrasive polishing or washing, and that is also lost. Tannins are reduced during the cooking. Then these inhibitors can be actually inhibited or inactivated during the cooking processes. Saponins can be again removed through washing or dehulling, and then hemagglutinin or lectins can be removed through irradiation or dry heat. Then we have thermal treatments, or there are like the primary processing. We have now green technologies also. So under green technologies like dry heat treatment, maybe up to only 50 degrees Celsius, we can inactivate the lipase, which is a major culprit for the resulting into the production of these free fatty acids or causing rancidity, and anti-nutritional factors can be reduced. Besides, the shelf life can also be enhanced by reducing the microbial count, maybe bacteria or the fungal count. Then we have hydrothermal treatment, that is basically soaking the grains for a certain period of time, maybe very short period of time, and then treating, dry heating them. That will also enhance the antioxidant activity, resistant starch, and certain bioactive components. And it has been proven that proso millet and pearl millet products, when treated hydrothermally, can decrease the glycemic index and the inactivation of the lipase content, as well as reducing the microbial count. So basically, it enhances the bioavailability of these nutrients and the therapeutic value, as well as the shelf life of the products that can be prepared. Then we have fermentation and germination. Again, and there is enhancement of the bioactivity as well as the bioavailability of the nutrients. Then we can prepare different value-added products, maybe using millets as 100% or mixing with different kinds of other flours, maybe legumes or the other cereal flours, and then can be introduced for different age groups, maybe from infants to like geriatrics. And then we can use cold extrusion methods, which can be very economical at a small scale industries. Then we have ultra high pressure treatment or enzymatic modification. These are the treatments which are pretty comparatively not cost effective and however, the shelf life would be enhanced, the bioavailability would be enhanced, and the physicochemical textural properties can be enhanced to a great extent. But like if we talk about from small scale or middle SMEs or MSMEs, small scale industries or middle scale industries, probably this would not be possible for them to take up these technologies. Then modification through enzymatic modification, basically there are changes in the starch content which can result into the production of kind of modified starches or like resistant starches, and starch processing with lower digestibility, enhanced physicochemical properties, and then we can use them in different food industries, maybe beverage or confectionery. Then packaging plays a very, very important role. There can be different packaging material for different kinds of the products, and the shelf life of, like if we see the grains when they are not dehusked, they have a good shelf life. For example, if we talk about kodo and kutki minor millets, the shelf life dehusked grains, and they can be kept for years together and it will not be infested by any of the insects. However, the moment we mill them, and the flours would become rancid and prone or susceptible to like infestations from various insects. So packaging material also plays a very important role because it acts as a barrier, and the shelf life has been seen to extend from 6 months to maybe 9 months for export purposes also for the products. And then packaging material can also be developed from millets while using different kinds of methodology. For example, essential clove oil can be utilized for encapsulating eugenol also, which has a high antioxidant activity and antimicrobial activity. And like for example, enhancement of shelf life of this queso blanco cheese has been seen because it inhibits the Listeria monocytogenes and have an excellent ABTF and DPPH radical quenching activity. So the major takeaways is like since we have moved towards this gluten-free foods, so instead of going for other things, we can always shift to our indigenous grains, and that are naturally gluten-free, and we can overcome celiac diseases by consuming more of these millets or millet-based products. And then again, the shift would be from animal proteins to plant proteins, and there is always an attraction towards highlighting the health components of these ancient grains, and there is a strong need to revive our own crops through technological intervention for mass use commercialization. And as we have discussed, that it is a very good source of gamut of rather nutrients, micronutrients, and phytochemicals. So the basic thing is like for improving the techno biofunctionality of this, we need to work upon the processing technologies, how we can actually enhance the processing technologies that they are available from door to door. And then packaging of these millet-based products that can be cost-effective also, and the utilization of the raw or the processed millets to prepare the millet products. So again, I'll be just showing a few glimpses of what NIFTM is working in the area of millets to promote millets. So some of the millet recipes have been developed, because millets as such, as I told, they have some bitter components, so we can how to enhance its palatability. So these recipes like foxtail millet khichdi, these premixes have been developed and which are ready to use, and like podo millet kheer and the pearl millet dosa and idlis have been developed, premixes have been developed, and it hardly takes 5 to 7 minutes to prepare the entire recipe. And these are the extramural projects that. Hello?
Please, ma'am, can you please wind up the PPT? We have another speaker also joined
Yes.
for the session.
Just 2 minutes.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
So we have like collaborations with all the government bodies and the private bodies and the academia. And these are the products that have been developed. And these are some of the glimpses of ready-to-eat products that have been developed. Then ready-to-eat, these are the baked products. And then baked products. Halwa mix, as I was telling, pre-mixes. These are again extruded products through cold extrusion. And these are the trainings that have been conducted on site within NIFTM as well as different parts of the country. And these are like entire things, trainings here. And we have developed these manuals for the how to use these recipe books as well as the equipment that anybody wants to put in. Then these are like large scale trainings that have been conducted in the pilot plants. Products that have been developed and ready to eat pilot plants. And besides that, we are also promoting millets in ICDS, like in the Nutrition Month activity, we have been conducting and distributing the millet-based products in the Anganwadis. And then again, we are also trying to develop this RUTF and RUSF, that is ready to use supplementary foods for the SAM and MAM children. And the lactation cookies for basically enhancing the milk output in mothers. And we have also worked on the like flavor change of the take-home ration that is available in the Anganwadis and developed few products. These are some of the glimpses, media. That is all.
Thank you, ma'am. The session is open for question. Does anyone have any question?
Dr. Komal, can you hear me? I'm Dr. Rashid.
Yes, sir. Very good afternoon to all. I can see you, sir.
We are very good friends. Acha, I'm very happy to note that you have developed at NIFTM so many millet-based RTE products.
Yeah.
Are you transferring the technologies, because so many bachas are sitting here who are ambitious about becoming entrepreneurs and all startups?
Yes, we are in a process of transferring the technologies. Like one, we have already transferred for the premixes of khichdi and halwa premix, and the other is our in pipeline.
Okay.
There are two industries that are coming up, one for the lactation cookies and the other for again the premixes for ICDS.
Any scheme to promote the students to become startups and entrepreneurs?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Very good.
It is a nice presentation, and I have just a little query. I wanted to know, like we've been discussing about millets so much. I want to know, have you ever explored the phytate and tannin content in the millets, which interfere with the availability of various micronutrients, especially iron and calcium? So I just wanted to know about that.
Yes, we have a data like especially for the bajra, we have analyzed the different cultivars and the varieties of bajra that are available across North India, and we have determined the phytate and the tannin content in them, and how basically the different processing techniques have reduced these levels to what extent. And then once they are removed, then how they are being utilized for value added products, and that content has also been checked in the value added products also. So we have that data.
Ma'am, you have also talked about biofortified millets which you are developing. So in that biofortified millets, are these things tannin and phytate contents being taken care?
Like we haven't developed any for biofortified varieties. They are actually we are using. There is a project we are working closely with Harvest Plus, where biofortified varieties are being provided for like bajra as well as wheat. And from that, we are developing those products. But like for the phytate and the tannin contents for those biofortified varieties, I don't think we haven't analyzed, but I will just check whether how much is the content, because those varieties are being provided by Harvest Plus itself.
Yeah. So it's better if we know the bioavailability of these iron and minerals from the biofortified foods. That will be very nice.
Even for the normal varieties of these millets, as you suggested for the biofortified varieties, for the normal millets we have checked the bioavailability for micronutrients, especially iron and zinc only. And for the biofortified varieties, it is yet to be done.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am, for such an overwhelming and enlightening session on millets. Now I request Dr. Monica to introduce our next speaker for the session, the next and the last speaker of the session. Thank you once again, ma'am. So it is our proud privilege to welcome Professor Niranjan in AMIFOST 2023 in Technical Session 1. Professor Niranjan is working on food bioprocessing at the University of Reading. He is a chemical engineer by training and faculty member at University of Reading since 1989. He is a fellow of the Institute of Food Science and Technology, the immediate past president of the International Society of Food Engineering and editor of the Journal of Food Engineering. Professor Niranjan has a strong track record of original research publications, and his researches are in the broad area of food processing, food process engineering for health and environment. His current research areas are formation and stability of bubble-included foods, engineering strategies to lower fat uptake during deep fat frying, development of composite stable packaging, active and otherwise, high pressure processing of foods and processing techniques for separation, healthy positive ingredients. Professor Niranjan has a number of projects funded externally by the food industry as well as national and international funding agencies. He is passionately committed to the food engineering education, especially to its research and enterprise dimensions. He was also awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award by International Association of Engineering and Food, its Congress held in Montreal in 2015. Over to you, Professor Niranjan. Kindly share the screen. Yes.
Thank you very much for the generous introduction.
Thank you.
And greetings from England. I'll try and share the screen and let me know whether you can see it. Can you?
Yes, the screen is visible. Kindly put on this thing.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. The slide view. 1 minute. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine, sir. Now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, it's good to meet you all. What I'm going to talk about is food packaging. Now, clearly, packaging is an integral part of processing. People always talk about processing without packaging, and it's the there are two sides of the same coin. without packaging, the processing becomes completely meaningless because the effect of processing can be nullified in no time. So when you're talking about processing, it is also important to talk about the other side of processing, which is packaging. Now, foods have been preserved through packaging as well, through processing and packaging for a number of years, but we are now facing, we are more or less at crossroads at the moment. And what seems to be happening is that we are, we have developed such wonderful packaging materials, which are so stable that, they remain with us for long after the food has been consumed. And that is our major problem. I mean, it's not a problem where we don't have a technology. The problem is our technology is too good. And that's what we are trying to overcome at the moment. From a very high technology, we may have to move to a lower technology now. Otherwise, our packaging will be so good that they will never disintegrate. They will never leave our planet. That's the problem. Okay. So the title of this presentation is trying to look at the functionality on one side of packaging, and on the other side, we will look at environmental legacy of the packaging. So in terms of presentation, I will talk about the role of packaging in food processing. That's a fairly straightforward topic, which you probably will find in many textbooks. And then what functions does packaging serve? What are the key considerations in packaging design? What materials are used to make packaging? And can these materials be sourced sustainably? And that's the key question. And if we can't source them sustainably, what are we doing about it? So that's where I think the contemporary view will be discussed. And a very important consideration whenever you are thinking about packaging is what happens to the packaging after use. That's a question that every processor has to answer before putting a food in a package. What is going to happen to the packaging? Because the food is going to be eaten. The packaging is not going to be eaten. And if it is going to be eaten, you may require another packaging to keep this packaging, the edible packaging, safe. So edible packaging concept is a gray area. It's a red herring. I'm not going to talk about edible packaging, but anybody who uses packaging must always ask himself or herself what happens to the packaging after the food is consumed. Unfortunately, very few people have clear answers to this question. Just before I go into packaging, I'll just talk about a very simple description of food processing in general. Now, if you talk about the food process, we usually have a farm produce. That may be a cereal, that may be vegetable, that may be fruit, it may be livestock. So you have a farm produce, then you have water, of course, is an essential ingredient of every food. And then you may have other ingredients, which all these will go into a factory, which is essentially a processing area. And very broadly speaking, you will have processing as well as packaging being undertaken in this processing area to give you your product. Now, this was the conventional view of a food processing plant. However, more recently, people have realized that this processing also produces waste, and these wastes have an environmental impact. And that's the key problem now. Up till now, we were not worried about the waste and the environmental impact. We cannot afford to do that anymore. And so, even when you are designing your product, even when you are designing your processes, you have to consider the waste and the environmental impact that this waste will potentially have. So these factors have completely transformed the way we think about designing a process. Now, if you look at a traditional sequence, we were always packaging food first and then processing it. This is what is called in-container processing. So now this may be very counterintuitive, because if I ask you to bring some packed lunch, for example, you will say, I'll first cook the lunch, then put the lunch in a box. So that means the processing comes first and then the packaging. However, if you look at the history of food processing, we never processed first. We packaged first and then processed. So it's completely counterintuitive. And there was a very good reason why this happened. And this was because we never had proper filling technologies. Very often what would happen is you would process the food, make it safe, and then during filling there could be contamination, and that effectively nullified everything that you did from a processing point of view. So if you look at it, was much later, probably in around the 1950s or 1960s, that a company called Tetra Pak came up with clearly clean and what they call aseptic filling. And once aseptic filling was possible, then we were able to process first and then package. Not only that, this also meant that we could use many materials which were not really used for food processing earlier, because earlier the food was processed in the package, which meant the package had to withstand the intensity of processing. It could be temperature, it could be pressure. So only materials like glass or metal could be used. Today, we are able to sort of fill it after processing, and therefore we can use a variety of substrates for making packaging, which is what is happening. So within a packaging, what are we trying to achieve? A good food packaging must clearly, the main function of packaging is to contain the food. That's a fundamental purpose. So then of course, in addition to containing, it must also preserve the quality of the food. It must protect the food from any abuse. But of course, remember, once the food goes into the packaging, at some point it has to come out as well. So dispensing is a very important part of packaging design. And because packaging offers surface area, you can use the packaging surface area to promote. When I say promote, I'm not talking about mere advertisement. You can also inform people about the food, about the attributes of the food, about the potential drawbacks of the food as well. You can have a fairly objective, piece of information, and all this must have to be done at an acceptable overall cost. So that's what a good food packaging must aim to achieve. Now, if you look at the packaging design, generally the most important considerations in the context of commercial brands is the brand itself and the product requirements. Now, some products require certain types of packaging. For example, there may be a product which really is sensitive to light. Then you will have to use a packaging that is sort of that filters the light out. So the brand and product requirements are the most important. But increasingly, what is happening is that the retailers are having this has not happened significantly in India, but it will almost certainly happen as the retailers become bigger and bigger. Right now, what is happening in India is there are many retailers who are relatively small. So small retailers generally don't have a high leverage in the food chain. Whereas if you look at Europe and United States, the retailers are extremely large. In fact, if you look at United Kingdom, there are only 4 retailers who control 80% of the food sales. So you will see that the retailers enjoy considerable leverage, considerable influence on shaping the food chain. So what the retailer requires often has to be met by a processor. Then, of course, the consumers are also involved in a way in designing the packaging, but they don't, not actively, but certainly indirectly. And then there are other considerations like legislation. You can't use any surface to package food. It's got to be an approved surface. So clearly regulations in this area are also very critical. And today, almost in every packaging design, even before you start designing the package, you ask yourself the question which I mentioned earlier: what am I going to do after the product is consumed? And that's the end of use strategy is extremely critical today. And then, of course, cost has always been critical, and this is very critical in food industry because food products are not expensive products. I mean, if you are talking about perfumes and other things, the products are fairly expensive, and therefore you can also design an expensive packaging. In the case of a food, the product itself is not a very expensive product, and nobody wants a food product to be expensive. So it is always important to make sure that the cost of the packaging is a fraction of the cost of the food. Unfortunately, it's not that easy to get the cost balance right. And this is again a big challenge that we face. What are the market issues? You will see that food products, the life of a food product in the market. I mean, the previous speaker mentioned a range of products that they have sort of developed. But please note that when you develop a product, and even if it is launched, first of all, very few products see the light of the day as far as market is concerned. And let us say you make a product which finds its way to the market, still its lifespan can be very, very short. There are very, very few products like the Cadbury chocolate and all where your grandparents enjoyed it and your grandchildren will probably enjoy it. But those products are kept in the public eye purely by advertisement. In other words, without advertisement, those products will also die. So in general, all the products that you produce, please note that the life cycle is relatively short. A successful food product probably has a life cycle of about 3 to 4 years. It is pretty short. And if you are able to keep a food product in the market for over 6 years, then you have done extremely well, I would say. So clearly, what you have to do, the only way to survive and to make your economic model sustainable is to make sure that you produce new products all the time, so that when one product is waning, the other product is picking up and your total sales are more or less stable. So that's the only way you can grow a food business. Then there is also a desire for greater product differentiation. So clearly, whenever you produce a food product, please remember you are not the only one to produce that product. Secondly, you are not the first person to produce the product. There will always be, so always remember there is competition already in the market. So your product has to differentiate itself from the other products that are or competing products. And that function can be done quite effectively by designing a proper packaging. Nowadays, as I said, there are very frequent packaging design changes also that occur. There may be new developments in packaging. There may be new materials. There may be, innovations which enable you to enhance the attributes of your product. So you may have to design. You may have to sort of embrace packaging design changes, and they are happening quite frequently. So that is another market consideration. The print runs on the packaging, mind you, it's not just a packaging. A packaging you should have proper printing on the packaging. And nowadays, historically, those the printing inks were dreadful in the sense that they never, they never degraded. So they remained there. It's a bit like newsprint. When you have a newsprint and you really can't use it for food product because the newsprint can migrate into the food. So the same way, the print runs are important, but nowadays we do get more environmentally friendly inks. But then those print runs are also relatively short, just like the packaging itself. As I mentioned, you also are able to use a significantly wide range of substrates to package your product, and there is also a pressure on you almost always, invariably that pressure is always there to reduce costs because you are in a competitive market. Always remember, don't think that you are the first person to make the food product. Don't think that, the first time that product has been made. You are always going to enter a market with competition, and you have to start thinking at the design stage itself how you can get an edge over your competitors. So clearly, cost reduction becomes a major issue there. Now, I mentioned about retailers exerting high leverage. The supermarket shelves, remember, manufacturers don't really see their consumers. See, you may design a product, you may develop a product, but you don't interact with your consumers directly. Your product reaches the consumer only through the retail outlet. So the retailer becomes very important. And how your product is displayed on the supermarket shelves, that is something extremely important. Otherwise, the consumer will not even see your product. The consumer may not even know you have a fantastic product available. So the supermarket shelves are full, and space in general, display space is very expensive. A product must be more profitable than its rival for the supermarket space or the shelf space. Now, again, the products are also displayed in many different ways. Please remember, when you are designing the packaging, you should also think about how that product will be displayed. Just to give an example, I know pizzas have become extremely popular in India. I mean, it's originally Italian, but I wouldn't be surprised if more pizzas are consumed in India than in Italy. But if you want to package a pizza, normally you use what's called a shrink wrap. So you have a plastic film that goes around the pizza. A pizza can simply geometrically is a circular disc. Okay, so you can shrink wrap it with a plastic film. That's one way, but don't assume that the way a pizza is stored on a shelf is just stacking one on top of the other. It may not be that way. You can also store a pizza like a bookshelf, like a book on a bookshelf. You can stack it that way. So when you are stacking it like a book on a bookshelf, only one point of contact, there is only one point of contact with the shelf. So, and that's the point which takes the whole weight and the pressure. So you will see when you stack pizzas like a book on a bookshelf, you will find dents. Now, if that's the way it's going to package, then you better design your packaging in such a way that it doesn't get dented. If, on the other hand, if it's placed one on top of the other, then you have other, more choices. So please make sure that you are able to appreciate how your product is going to be displayed on a supermarket shelf or a retailer shelf before you design the packaging. Effective pack design must also use available space effectively and promote sales. So you have to work very closely with the retailer where your product is being displayed. Remember, if you are a processor, if you are a product manufacturer, very, very few product manufacturers have direct contact with their consumers. You are going through the retailer. At the moment, the retailers are also want to reduce their costs, because usually historically what used to happen is you have what's called a wholesale pack. Then when it comes to the to the retailer, then they remove that wholesale pack and then there is a retail pack. You cannot, this produces a lot of waste, and a number of retailers are forcing manufacturers to come up with what they call retail ready packaging. So when you have a retail ready packaging, when your material comes off the truck, it's directly placed on the shelf. In fact, there are two supermarkets, German supermarkets, who have gone to the extent of even eliminating the shelf. They say, why should a supermarket have a shelf? They simply take the whole package as it is offloaded from a truck and place it on the floor itself. And all these, the two things that this does is, one is reducing packaging waste. Secondly, it also reduces the handling cost on the retailer side, which means if a retailer is responsible and good, they will be able to offer their products to the consumers at a much lower rate. Less packaging in general means less trash, and that's what everybody wants. Now, what are the consumer issues? There are many consumer issues, but I'm only going to talk about a few ones. And first, the biggest problem that most consumers complain about is opening and dispensing. And I am sure most of you in this auditorium are probably sitting with a water bottle. And how many of you struggle to open the lid of a water bottle? I have seen people, this happening all the time. The water bottles, just to make sure that it is not tampered with, the lid is so tight that nobody can open it. So opening and dispensing are major areas of concern. So what you ideally want is easy to open packaging. You also want tamper-proof packaging. Not only you want it to be tamper-proof, but you also want evidence that the packaging is tamper-proof. If your product is unsuitable for children, then clearly there must be a child-proof sort of provision. And now there is one area where we have not focused much attention on, and that is senior citizens. Now, human beings are living longer, life expectancy is increasing. Now, that's good on the one hand, but as you grow older, please remember, you're not as strong as you were when you were young, which means, your joints and other things. The same water bottle, to open the lid, I can open at my age, but probably in 10 years or 15 years, I may not be able to open it. because the joints become weaker. So has the food industry really thought about packaging which can be opened easily by senior citizens? This is a question that I keep asking a number of companies, and I don't think they have satisfactory answers. And people are living longer. We want people to be independent as far as possible. You don't want somebody to come to a younger person, just can you open this water bottle for me? Or can you open this package for me? So the design must be sensitive to the requirement of your target market. Now, but one thing is an established fact, and that is, if you have properly designed packaging, then you will reduce food wastage, not just packaging wastage. You are actually going to reduce food wastage as well. In fact, that is a method by which we measure how good a packaging is. The best way to measure whether a packaging is good or not is to find out, without the packaging, how much food would have got wasted. And it's an established fact, the packaging considerably reduces food wastage. So what are the materials that are used for food packaging? So here is a pie chart, and I would say that almost 1/3 is paper and paperboard. When I say paperboard, it's like cardboard and those types. That's almost 1/3. Then you have plastics, which is extensively used. That's another third. 27% rigid and 10% flexible. In India, probably this percentage may be slightly different, because in India you use more flexible packaging than rigid packaging. But regardless, I'm almost certain 40% or 35 to 40% of the packaging, even in India, is plastic. And then, of course, glass is also used, and there are other materials which are largely metals. Now, metals, usually there are two metals that are used. You either use aluminium or you use steel. Normally, steel is used. Aluminium is very expensive, but those who use aluminium packaging say that aluminium is recyclable, which is true. But aluminium is very expensive, and using aluminium for food packaging is not a very sensible option. And it's always difficult, because the aluminium is extensively used in other industry, and the price of aluminium is not controlled by its use in food industry. But steel is, of course, quite extensively used for making cans and all. Incidentally, you may have heard of the word tin can. Don't think that the tin can is made out of tin. It is not made out of tin. It may have a tin coating, but it's made largely out of steel. So this is a pie chart of which roughly describes the materials that are used for food packaging. Amongst the plastics, they are largely film-based packaging, and these film-based packagings can be made out of any polyolefins, polythene, polypropylene, etc. And you can get different grades depending on the molecular weight of the polymer. Then you have a bit more rigid containers like polyesters. Most of the water bottles that you are probably having right now, they are PET, polyethylene terephthalate. There are also polycarbonates which are used. These polycarbonates, I was extremely amused to see a photograph of the former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, who was taken to a court, and they had a polycarbonate bucket on top of his head to protect him, which was I could only say amusing. Then you have polyvinyl chloride, and a number of boxes and punnets. They are, the burger boxes and all, or sandwich boxes, can be made out of polyvinyl chloride. And then when you have a party and all, you have disposable lids, cups, trays, cutleries, etc., and they are largely made out of polystyrene. So these are the common plastics that are used. So that there are two quick questions that we have got to answer. Can packaging materials be sourced in a more environmentally friendly way? Why? Because almost 40% is plastic. And when you are talking about plastic starts its life from crude oil. So clearly that is not sustainable. And that's the reason why we have to find a replacement for plastic. Now, coming to paper and paperboard. Now, remember, paper and paperboard are also, it may be biodegradable, but don't forget that we use extremely mature cellulose to make paper. In other words, the trees that are cut down to make paper are probably, they are about 35, 40 years old. And therefore, the carbon footprint is also quite high. So whether paper and paperboard is really environmentally friendly, or can we improve the carbon footprint of paper and paperboard, that is something that we must consider. So the first question is, can packaging materials be sourced in a more environmentally sustainable way? The second question is then, what do we do with the packaging after we consume the product? Now, in the case of plastics, what has happened historically is that we have just thrown away, and once you throw away the packaging, it is out of our sight and therefore out of our mind. However, what seems to happen is when you throw away, these packaging ends up either in landfills, and people have dug up landfills after 40, 50 years and still found the packaging absolutely intact. Nothing happens to the packaging. Then you also have water streams. So a lot of plastic packaging end up in water streams where they degrade. And when I say degrade, they are not chemically degrading, but they physically degrade, and you end up getting what is called microplastics, and they get washed on the shores. This is a photograph taken in Indonesia, Bali, which is a beautiful part of Indian Ocean. But you will find, these things are being washed up on the shore all the time, and nobody knows where they are coming from. Well, we all know where they are coming from, but then clearly there is no way of controlling how we can stop this type of deposition of plastic on seashores.
Sir, I request to kindly finish off with the PPT.
Yep, it's okay. Done. It's done. Yeah. So there are three options that we have: reduce, reuse, and recycle. If you can't do any of these three, then you have to go into landfills. Okay. So this is the normal hierarchy. Alternative is to produce biodegradable and compostable packaging. The definition of biodegradable is the environmental microorganisms convert this into carbon dioxide and water vapor. Compostable packaging means environmental microorganisms convert this into soil enhancers. I don't think I've got enough time to talk about these things, so I will just go straight to conclusions because you asked me to start late, so that's where I am stuck. But anyway, you can make packaging out of lignocellulosic materials. These are essentially straw materials, and we can make packaging. All these packagings have been made out of straw. So you start with straw. Straw contains lignin and cellulose. You can either use the two together as composite, or you can separate the two. So this is something that we are trying to do. I think I will stop over here. Happy to answer any questions. If there are no questions, I'm even happier.
The session is open for questions. Yes. Yes, sir. So we have a question.
Yeah.
Professor Niranjan, thank you. That was a wonderful talk. When we are talking about food packaging, and we are in an era where there is a lot of takeaway foods, which are prevalent, and many of our youngsters and most of us actually sheer convenience. There is a lot of packaging involved in those foods. So any comments on that? That's my first question. I mean, it's not a question. And my second, it's just it's just a query in terms of when you said that consumers want various kinds of packaging because of ease, or package should open clearly, and you're looking at senior citizens and their comfort in packaging, opening up of materials. Has there been any survey done by your team regarding like what we call nutrition labeling or front of pack packaging? Do the consumers actually want that? And any observations on that, sir?
Okay. I think there are two parts to your question. I'll answer the first one. For takeaway is relatively straightforward. The packaging for takeaway is relatively simple because the food is not stored in the packaging for a long time. So when you have takeaway, the food is more or less consumed immediately after purchase. So in there, you have a lot more options. So the time for which the food remains in contact with the packaging is relatively short, and therefore your options are significantly greater, you can use materials which you can't use otherwise. In the context of surveys, I haven't done any survey. As I said, I'm an engineer, and I don't get involved in surveys. But having said that, literature is full of surveys on what kind of information one puts on packaging. It's not, yes, nutritional information, should they be so detailed as they are at the moment? That's something that has been questioned for a very long time. Then we actually what is even more critical is the use by and sell by date that is put on packaging. People don't understand the difference between use by and sell by. People often look at the date and then think that, oh God, the date is gone, so we shouldn't be consuming the food, and then that has actually increased the wastage of food. So there is a review of that happening at the moment, I know, here, where you have very clear instructions on, or at least an advisory which says that just because the sell by date is gone, it doesn't mean the food is not edible. So these are some of the things which are being looked into, but I think there is far too much information on a packaging which is probably not needed.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you. So you mentioned that the takeaway food packaging needn't be, did you say high? I mean, not much of high quality, or?
No, I didn't mean not of high quality. I think that what I said was that the food does not, mind you, the takeaway food is consumed immediately after purchase. Correct. That's the definition of takeaway. So the food does not remain in the packaging for a very long time. So you can, just to give I'll give you an example. Let's say you purchased a cutlet or something like that, and that cutlet was put in a box. And let's say that box was made out of paper. Now, a paper box must always have proper waterproofing. It must also have grease proofing. Now, how long is that box going to be in your hand while you eat the cutlet? 15 minutes. So that means the quality of waterproofing and the quality of grease proofing must only last for about, say, half an hour at the most.
Yes.
So that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say that it should be inferior. If you don't use grease proofing, then what's going to happen is the grease will leak through the packaging and your hands will become greasy and you won't like it.
And
so those are so I think it won't be that stringent.
Yes, sir. And concern, especially if your takeaway food is hot, if there's a hot beverage or hot foods.
Okay. Now you're talking about a different area altogether. And this has been, and in fact, this is a very debatable area. There have been a number of court cases as well, both here and in the United States. And that, especially coffee cups. Now, how hot can a coffee cup be? Now, the coffee cup is capable of taking heat. There is nothing wrong with that. You can even put boiling coffee in cups and nothing is going to happen to the cups. However, there are other health and safety aspects. For example, if the coffee spills, if a boiling hot coffee spills on you, those are the issues. So, and that is why I think there is a cap on the temperature. Most of the manufacturers don't exceed 65 to 70, and I think it's usually cold for a coffee. I drink hot coffee, but manufacturers don't exceed 65 to 70 just for health and safety reasons.
Right. Thank you.
It's nothing to do with the packaging.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Yes. Hello, Dr. Niranjan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Myself, Dr. Modi here.
Yeah.
Just about this byproducts of the industry, sugarcane industry, the bagasse and rice husk. That is what we call parali now here. So these material, any success story about the packaging development from these two?
Well, I was about to show the success story. Unfortunately, I didn't have time. But yes, you basically the idea is these are lignocellulose. You have lignin, you have cellulose. Now there are two ways of using it. You can either separate the lignin from cellulose. I am not very keen on separating because the separation process itself is a chemical process and it will add to your carbon footprint. So the best way is to use the straw on its own. There are different, and you can refine the straw, put the right additives there. That is the critical thing. You need proper waterproofing, you need grease proofing, and you may have to add other chemicals as well. And incidentally, all these chemicals are also biodegradable. They are available in the market, and then you can make you use the same process that one uses for paper molding, pulp molding. So that is something that we are doing, and that's on the verge of being commercialized. And there are egg boxes is a good example, which has been around for a long time. And you can make egg boxes out of this, not necessarily conventional paper.
Yeah, with these two, that is means economically it is viable.
Yes, definitely viable. Only thing is, you need see, there is no ready product available. It depends on the food. So you need to do some sort of research to make sure that the packaging meets the requirement of the manufacturer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Thank you, sir, for such a great talk. I request Dr. Monica to kindly conclude the session. Thank you once again, Professor Niranjan. So with this, our first technical session of AMIFOST 2023 is over. I thank all the eminent speakers of the day, Dr. Patel, Dr. Chauhan, Dr. Niranjan, for highlighting a very innovative ideas in food science and technology. I'm sure each one of us has gained a lot from these sessions. We'll now move for the lunch, and we'll be again meeting in the same venue at 2:30 p.m. So I request everyone to enjoy the lunch, and we'll be back at 2:30 again. Thank you once again. Yes, the lunch venue is in the same place where we have the morning tea. Yes. In the same block, we have the lunch venue as well.
For the second technical session for the 6th AMIFOST 2023. For the second technical session, we have the dignitaries, that is Dr. Manoj K. Patel, Principal Scientist, CSIR Central Scientific Instrument Organization, Chandigarh, and Dr. Neha Sharma, Professor, Amit Institute of Food Technology, Amit University, Uttar Pradesh. I would like to invite Dr. Manoj K. Patel, sir, for the welcome speech. Over to you, sir.
So, good afternoon to you all. So, today in this session, we have a very exciting event, and we have 3 speakers who are, one is online, right? And two are offline here, present here. So, first one is from Swedish University of Agriculture Sciences, Sweden. Second one from Tezpur University, Assam. And the third one is, for me, it's more exciting. That is a startups event. Some products will be launched, and the startups are MC Can, Orica, Abrosa, Quilseg. So let's have this exciting event, and we are looking forward. So, ma'am, Dr. Neha Sharma will introduce the speaker for this session.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. It's my privilege to introduce the first speaker of this technical session, Dr. Shantanu Basu. Dr. Shantanu Basu is a researcher working in the area of food science in Swedish University of Agriculture Sciences, Sweden. He did his BTech in food technology and biochemical engineering from Jadavpur University. At PG level, he has been an alumni from IIT Kharagpur, and he pursued his PhD from Punjab University, Chandigarh. He has a brilliant career, starting with his career from Punjab University, Chandigarh, followed by NIFTIM, and now to his present position at SLU, Sweden. He has been a recipient of Commonwealth Academic Staff Fellowship and worked at University of Cambridge, UK. To his credit, he has many eminent publications in the field of food science and technology, which includes more than 40 scientific research publications, 12 book chapters, and 1 edited book. So I welcome Dr. Shantanu Basu, our first speaker for this technical session. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for the nice introduction. I will share my screen. Okay. This is the emblem of my university, which you can see. And what I will be speaking about is on this topic. I have kept the title of my talk as The Art of Applying Science of Texture for Food Product Development, to food product development. And my talk is more actually dedicated for the students to encourage and understand. And before going to the actual talk, what I will be doing, I'll be briefly sharing a little bit about my university and the department. I work at SLU, which is Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, and it is one of the most prominent agricultural universities in the world. It comes in the ranking number 3 in the world. And in terms of ranking, we actually come around between 300 to 400 in terms of worldwide ranking of all universities. But it is one of the most prominent agricultural university. And this is my department. My department is Department of Molecular Sciences. And here we do research on many things, actually, not only food science, chemistry, microbiology, biotechnology, and as well as food science. And we have, actually the structure in Sweden is completely different than India. We have 9 chair professor groups, and I belong to one of the group. And my group is plant food science, where we have a major focus on plant food science research, particularly with focus on starch and fibers. Means we work starting from plant breeding to product manufacturing, even up to your human consumption level. So we map actually the entire chain. So this is the outline of my talk. What I'll be giving is a glimpse of idea about the texture, why texture is important, and then I will discuss how to measure texture and how to look at food product at different length scales to understand a product property like texture. And then I'll be speaking about some of my previous work. And these are very simple products like a cheese and an apple, and how to look at their texture. I will explain in my own way. And then I will give a research perspective and conclude my lecture. This is the rough outline of my talk. So this actually figure very well visualizes one thing, the entire chain, starting from a farm level to factory level to our eating level of food. And when you eat a food, it breaks down. It breaks down to different molecules and it reaches to the cells. And food is very much linked with our health, and it is not only the health of a person, but it is also health of the population. So food is linked from farm to population in many ways, and it touches actually different sustainable development goals. But when we talk about food, we talk about the texture of food. For example, you people had all lunch, must be a nice lunch. So you must be talking about how the taste was of the dal makhni. But rarely you speak about the texture of the food. Texture comes second when we talk about food products, quality, or how we appreciate about the food. But here in lecture, I will show that texture is really, really important to look into. This is a picture which summarizes how to look at food product. In the right side, you can see some simple food products like a banana or an orange or a bread. What is common between them are the major molecules which are present. The building block molecules which are present in them are all same: protein, fat, and carbohydrates. And how this protein, fat, and carbohydrates are assembled and interact with the water present in them are actually very different. Therefore, we have actually different kinds of food products with varied textural properties. So if we want to look how they are assembled, we use a microscopy to look at how they are assembled, these different molecules. And then further, if we go down to look and understand how these molecules, the building block molecules like protein, fat, and carbohydrate are interacting, we go at the molecular level. And this framework is called molecule to microstructure to product or property. And here, texture is the property that we are measuring. And therefore, we always try to understand this, how this molecular interaction influences the microstructure of any material, and microstructure of the material ultimately links to the properties of any food material. So how to look at them then? This figure, if you look at it from left to right, from a very small tiny molecule to bigger molecule or assembled structures, we can look at it. The left hand side represents the molecules, and middle level actually represents the assembled structures like the casein micelle or a starch granule structure in the micron range, or the foam bubbles that are created when you manufacture any food products. And in the right side are the product, and products have very different functionality. So here I am interested to show you the functionality, that is the texture, and which is a mechanical property of the food material. So if you look at a very simple way and about food, we know food materials either is processed in a manufacturing factory or we are making a food in our home, in the kitchen. So we use some raw materials, cook them or industrially process them to produce a product. The product are very different. Product has very, very different microsstructure and macroscale structure. And this very different microscale structure or macroscale structure is responsible for different kinds of food texture. And when we eat a food product, we bite a food product, we chew a food product, we mix it up with our saliva in our mouth. And this process, when we bite it, we do a mental calculation that how much force is needed to bite a food product, how long we have to chew a food product before we swallow it. And this process actually led to a dynamic sensory perception. We generate our idea about the food, whether it is taste good or not, and that helps us to make a decision about the liking or disliking about the food product. And therefore, texture is very important because it is linked to the product liking. Now the problem here is texture is a sensory property, and how people understand texture is varied. It is subjective. One person's understanding may be completely different from another person. So we need an instrumental way of measurement of food texture. And therefore, we do different kind of textural analysis to mimic our food eating behavior to understand the quality in terms of texture. Or also we can mimic an industrial processing situation to how the texture of the material is getting changed to mimic that. So the next question comes that how do we differentiate different kinds of food products? These are some very common food products which you can see, and if you look from left to right, we can see the left side are liquid materials which are highly flowable material, and flowable materials scientifically are called viscous material. And right side, if we see, are solid materials. Solid materials are scientifically called elastic material, which doesn't flow, but if we can apply a force, we can deform or cut or bite anything. But there are in between many materials which are neither solid nor liquid. In a static position, at rest, they behave like a solid, but when you apply a force, they move like a dough, like a jam. You can take out a jam with a spoon and can spread it over a piece of bread. And these type of products are called viscoelastic material. So we primarily categorize food product into these simple three categories. Now how then we can measure the food materials? mechanical attributes. We measure actually food material into three modes, either by compressing or in a tension mode, means by stretching, or for liquid material, we do a shearing motion to see how it flows. And this actually is done in certain kind of machines called rheometer or texture analyzer to understand them. And this brings to a new area of science, which is called rheology, which is science of deformation and flow. And what we do here is apply a force and see how it deforms. And force is measured in terms of a parameter called stress, which is force divided by unit area. And we see how the material gets deformed. And therefore, the rheological understanding is nothing but stress versus deformation relationship development. And this is very different from one material to another material. And this can be classified into this way. If we look at a liquid material, how it will behave and how a solid material will behave are very different. If you look at the y-axis is the deformation. And x-axis is called a number, called Deborah number. And this diagram is called Pipkin diagram. Deborah number shows actually time needed to flow of a material and how long we observe the flow to happen. So for a liquid material, it instantly flows. And we can create a hugely high deformation when we apply a force. But that doesn't happen in a solid material. So we have in the left-hand side, simple liquid like a water or oil or some beverage. But whenever we go, this type of fluids are called Newtonian fluid, based on the discovery by concept viscosity discovered by Newton. And in the right side, we have a very classical solid materials, where we can think of a Hookean solid based on Hooke's concept of your elasticity. And in between is the viscoelastic range. And food products, we can measure the textural attribute either in the linear viscoelastic region or non-linear viscoelastic region. The way we measure, we can develop a lot of rheological parameters or textural parameters to understand the properties of the food materials. So, with this understanding, how then we can help in product development? How we can use the science of texture in food product development? We can use it everywhere. We can use it from the farm level. If you want to measure the hardness of an apple or a crispiness of a potato chips in a manufacturing factory, or the flowability of a sauce in a manufacturing factory, we apply different kinds of scientific areas. Either we can measure it by your compression and fracture behavior, which comes under the area of mechanics, solid mechanics, or we can also use principles of rheology to measure the viscous character or elastic character, or also we can use another disciplinary knowledge that is called tribology of food material. Now, here, if we look at it from farm level to factory level to our eating level, we can use the concept of different kinds of textural measurement. But when we eat a food product, we mix it up with saliva, and this saliva mixing creates a different kind of situation. And therefore, we use the knowledge of tribology, which is nothing but friction and lubrication behavior of any food material. So we use the principles of tribology to mimic our eating process, particularly at the end. And this, therefore, we use mechanics, rheological understanding, and tribological understanding of food material at different levels. So this is how we actually get an idea about a product's texture from farm level to factory level to product characterization and to mimic our eating behavior. Now, what I will be doing is I will just show some of my previous work. One is related to a very simple cheese, which is all of you know, Chena. And the second one is on apple, to develop a coating solution which can keep the apples longer. Let's look at chana, the first product. All of you see sweets. All of you eat sweets like rasgulla or normal sandesh. This is made out of chana. And chana is uniquely different from other types of cheese which are very common in your Western world. It is the heat and acid induced cheese product. And whereas the normal cheese, the Western cheese are rennet induced, which is an enzyme added product. But have you ever inquired that you will find the rasgulla and sandesh quality differs very much from shop to shop. The reason is what kind of milk they use. If you make a chana out of a cow milk, you can get a very fantastic, smooth, soft, pasty texture. But if you are making it from a buffalo milk, you can get a product, chana, which is actually an intermediate product for making the sweets, which is very hard, firm, and grainy and chewy. If you look at the picture, you can see it. And if you look at the microstructure also, we could see the differences. And we know that the fat content, protein content, these things are much more in buffalo milk. So whether only the composition is responsible for the textural differences, that was our question. And also, if we can mix up cow milk with certain proportion of buffalo milk, it will be easier to whether it will be possible to make product quality similar like a cow milk based sandesh or not. That was your research question that we had. Whether it would be possible to add some proportion or not, and why the milk coagulates so differently. So let's look at it, the basic chemistry of it. If you look at a milk, milk is a dispersion or emulsion. In the emulsion, you have liquid droplets present in a liquid. And the liquid droplets are nothing but casein micelle or the fat globules. And the liquid is the water in which whey protein and the lactose is present in a soluble form. But when you add a heat and add an acid like citric acid, what happens? There are fantastic changes. The fantastic change means first what happens, the whey protein which is in a soluble form gets denatured and falls on the casein micelle. And then this casein micelle and the whey protein based aggregate falls on the fat globule. And this actually causes a phase separation. So the liquid part as the whey comes out. Now, how they are different? So we did some experiment with buffalo milk and cow milk, and we constructed 3 different mixed milk samples, and we measured the texture in rheological measurements. The standard value is called phase angle, and phase angle is a very good indicator whether a material has a viscous character or a more elastic character. If the value is low, it is hard. It is more of very solid type of character. And if the value is high, it is more viscous character. And we could see actually here, these are actually have a high value. These are actually particularly the cow milk and the MM3, whereas the buffalo has a very low value, more hard value. Harder character or grainy means your firm character. So why this difference happens? We did some experiments then to understand that why milk coagulates so differently. We felt that we could explain it if we understand the protein coagulation behavior. Milk has casein protein and whey protein, and in these proteins there are a lot of fluorescent molecules are present. Tryptophan, tyrosine, these are actually phenylalanine. These amino acids are all fluorescent. What do? We sent a fluorescent light and excite these molecules and see their emission spectrum. Very simple. So we constructed an experiment at 4 different levels, 30 degrees centigrade, milk, buffalo milk and cow milk, how they are different. Heat it up to 90 degree and then cool it down to 70. 90 degree actually causes the denaturation of the whey protein. Cool it down and add an acid. And if you look at these 2 figures, this is for buffalo milk and this is for cow milk. They are very different. Why is so different? Cow milk casein micelle has a much higher water hydration capacity, and buffalo milk, whereas, has a much better buffering capacity, and cow milk doesn't have buffering capacity. Any change in pH, cow milk cannot tolerate. Buffalo milk doesn't change much. So, and also, if we look at this small peak, that we can find out that there is in cow milk, it is more red shifted, means more hydrated. And the reason why the cow milk, casein myceli, is actually remains in a very differently in a more hydrated state and more in an aqueous environment. And that is responsible for the soft and pasty and smooth textural attribute of the your chana obtained from the cow milk. Now the question here is, if we constructed this type of milk samples, how people perceive them. So we did a sensory analysis, sensory texture, and we created a lot of terms. But where also you could see the CM, and close to there, people could identify that the samples are very pasty and attaches to the teeth, whereas the buffalo milk and these things are very, the MM3, MM2, the in-between one is far away from these two categories. So we could explain actually these textural differences. People could explain that textural differences exist between these samples very well. And one important aspect here is in sensory texture, we could generate a lot of terms, chewy, grainy, rubbery, adhesive, which are common sensory terminologies that we use. But when we measure texture, it is very difficult to develop those kind of so many attribute. So the attributes, it cannot come in a single test. So we need to do multiple types of textural tests to depict those type of attributes. So this is a challenge for your particularly the texture scientists. So how to develop instrumental method by which you can mimic our sensory understanding of texture. So this is the first work that I presented. Second work is another work for apple. We all eat apple. And in India, the apples are produced in Kashmir, Himachal, little bit Dehradun and Arunachal. And rest of the India are totally dependent on that apple. So the price of the apples are maximum actually in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, which is the farthest point from Himachal. And so we did this work with a company called Godwin Agro, close to Chandigarh. And with Nabi as a collaboration partner. This is the work of my PhD student before I moved. And so the question here is that in India is a country where there is not much well-developed cold chain, how we could keep the apples longer with less loss in quality. An apple is a biological material and respiring material, and a lot of water is getting released due to the respiration activity, and this water loss causes the shrinkage. And there is also a mechanism of ethylene metabolism, and it releases ethylene, and so the ripening happens faster. So we thought of developing a coating solution and put that on the apple such that we can keep the apples without any cold chain and can transport from different regions in India. So for doing that, we thought of using biodegradable materials. We extracted arabinoxylum from wheat and beta-glucan from oat. This is wheat straw abundantly left in the agricultural field, and this is burnt actually and causes huge air pollution in Delhi and surrounding area. So we developed a film between with arabinoxylum and beta-glucan, but the problem is it's hydrophilic. Arabinoxylum and beta-glucan water soluble, so we need to develop a hydrophobicity, otherwise problem. So we use different kinds of fatty acid to acidify the beta-glucan, and then we developed films and looked them under microscope. These are the microscopes figure. BG, this is the normal. La is lauric acid, Ma is myristic acid, Pa is palmitic acid, Sa is stearic, Oa is oleic. If you move from La to Oa, the chain length is getting more and more bigger. And this La, Ma, Pa, they are actually these figures. What you could see when you make the film, the smaller size fatty acids actually gets crystallized and more surface you get visible, and the bigger and long chain fatty acids actually this is more homogeneous in nature, and that is represented when we measure the texture of the film in terms of tensile strength. And we also measure the tensile strength of LDP, low density polyethylene, and which comes almost close to the range, and also has a very good water vapor permeability, because the arabinoxylon or arabinoxylon beta-glucan has a very high water vapor permeability, and we could reduce by incorporation of fatty acids the water vapor permeability and can achieve a very good tensile strength. But whether these films are thermostable, we checked the thermal stability of the film and found out it's a very good stable over a good range of temperature profile. So we could use this as a material like arabinoxylon and beta-glucan esterified with stearic acid as a coating solution for storing of the apples. So we applied it on apples. We took apples freshly harvested, because we had the tie-up with this apple storage company, so they were getting the apples on the next day. So we worked with them, and there are 3 categories of sample: uncoated sample, and our coating solution at different percentage, 1, 2, 4, and shellac. Shellac is a commercial resin which is applied on fruit surfaces many times. So we could see the red one, uncoated. Actually, we have a loss in firmness, means the loss in texture. Apple is not crisp enough. You could see after 15 days or 30 days is a huge loss. Weight loss, uncoated, is very high, but whereas our samples and as well as the shellac samples are all pretty good, much lower. Much less weight loss or much better firmness loss. And if you look also the respiration rate in terms of carbon dioxide generation, we could see it is releasing less. So we could slow down the respiration rate, which is responsible for the ripening process. And therefore we could use it for minimum 30 days easily without any cold chain. Actually, cold chain costs more, particularly for apple storage. So this is a coating solution for keeping the apple quality good, and where you can store for a long period of time, or where you can transport for a longer distance. Okay, without any cold chain need. So what I delivered here about this two your product, very common product, apple and chena or like cheese, is a perspective that we can develop a product if we know the microstructure or if we know the molecules that we can play with. So from molecule to structure creation to product property like texture. And here we have to understand that molecules are responsible for structure creation. And structure creation means the assembling of the different macromolecules or minor molecules, minor nutrient like metals and other stuff. So food product development is nothing but a particular type of structure, microstructure creation. So we need to know how we can develop a particular type of microstructure creation, how to develop a microstructure to get a particular desired texture. And similarly, we also need to know how a microstructure gets distracted, because when we are eating or when we are processing a material during our cooking, we break down the structure of the raw material or the cooked material or processed food, whatever we are eating. So the knowledge about structure creation and structural breakdown is very important, and structural breakdown is very responsible for the release of the nutrient. It is linked to the digestibility of the starch or digestibility of the protein. It is linked to the bioavailability of the minerals or micronutrients in our body. So texture is therefore very important. And while we do this framework, molecule to structure creation to product formation with a desirable texture, we need to focus on the health of us, people, and the planet. This is the perspective that I use and I try to show it. And before finishing, I would like to show you one thing. This is where we are right now. Question here is, if you look at the evolutionary pathway, never before in the human evolution, there are so many dental disorders. Why it is happening? What is the problem of our eating food? If you look at the processed food industry, which is just 150 years invention, and the amount of sugar, amount of softer texture food that we are eating, which our ancestors were not eating. We need to eat actually more complex textured food product, means soft, hard, chewy, rubbery, many different kinds of texture to address the teeth health or oral health. So, if, my conclusion from the talk here is that we need to know food at different length scale, from molecular level to microstructure creation to product property like texture. And this understanding of the texture can help us in efficient process design or product development. Thank you for your attention.
Wow. Yeah. Question answer. So if anyone have any question, so you may ask. Or after lunch, everyone is feeling lazy. Okay. So Dr. Santanu, I have one question. Prior to texture, I had a perception of texture that it's a lucrative way. So is it only for lucrative things to make a very appearance wise, or is it beyond lucrative? Hello, can you listen?
Yes, means texture means lucrative means means what?
In good appearance, or is it beyond lucrative thing?
Means texture is a sensory property, means it can be some products may be very texture wise, look nice, crispy, means which you have a common perception. But what my point here is that we need to eat products with diverse your texture to keep our oral health better. And for example, processed food industry has a way to make product. Means, for example, we are very much, for example, majority of us eat basmati rice because we means in any function, any things. But India has hundreds of different, thousands of different kinds of rice. But somehow, what has happened over a period of time that we think that this is the kind of your food we should eat and this is the kind it will look. But sometimes we need to go beyond that. Means you're particularly to have your diversity in our diet and diversity in terms of product quality in our consumption in our plate. And means, for example, in simple potato can be made as chips, potato can be fried. It means it can be very different. Now the chips from a Lay's and chips from another company or chips that we are a very small vendor may vary differently. It can be some companies might try to make it very look-wise attractive, which may be lucrative, but there are products which maybe not maybe look so nice, but it's much more healthier. And we need to choose our food and cautiously, and we need to actually think about diet and health connection while choosing food.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, there is one more question. Mike.
Hello, sir. Thank you very much for the nice session. My question is that texture is okay to define for the different kinds of food products for different age groups and all. But on what basis we define the parameters that needs to be checked for different products? Like say, for bread, we are doing a double cycle TPA. For biscuit, it is single cycle. But if someone is working for the sugar candy, And you also discussed the release of the components from the food during that consumption. So what could be the texture profile analysis for sugar candy, or for crackers, or for biscuits, or for breads? So like you discussed about that viscous and elastic product, but in between there are thousands and millions of products can be developed. Okay, so someone is working on new product. On what basis that person who is working on the R&D will define the texture profile parameters, and what can be tested?
Thank you. It's a very good question. What my talk is more fundamental parameters. I basically classified food in terms of viscous and elastic parameter, but it got changed. If you look at food scientists and other branches of scientists, like any material scientists or chemical engineers, in 1960, I forgot the year, means you can see just check that the TPA invention in particularly by Seseniak and considered developed the food texture terminologies like hardness, firmness, resilience, which basically developed a completely different way of looking into food texture. Now, there is a huge difference in material science approach of understanding fundamental parameters like viscous, elastic, or viscoelastic or elastic modulus, this type of way of looking the food texture, or the pure food scientist, the TPA type of texture. TPA type of texture is not fundamental. These are derived parameter by doing some double compression or single compression tests, and no other branch of science like any material scientist will not understand these terminologies. You can read a debate on that by Misha Peleg's major write-up, particularly on this, the fundamental way of looking at food, or basically the empirical way of looking at food by this type of terminologies like fracturability or resilience or cohesiveness, because they have not very fundamental material property. Okay, now, but they're useful, very, very useful for thousands of, but you cannot mimic. Like one product, particularly bread, measured with a certain kind of your testing conditions with particular type of probe, it will differ if someone uses a different probe. But what I was saying about the more fundamental properties, which are universal, which if I measure in Sweden and if you measure in Amity will remain the same. But here the thing is that the product's variation is so much, you have to either mimic the way we eat. Now, here comes the choice of your probe and choice of your testing condition to mimic. If you look at the double compression, it is nothing but biting of 2 times. Single compression, biting or cutting, this type of phenomena. So, we have to take it actually to the product's context. I cannot say that there is any uniform rule, but what one have to do, it contextualize it. Either the eating process or using process. For example, I am cutting a fruit or breaking something. So I have to mimic that operation in the way I construct the texture analysis. So every product is unique, and you have to develop the way texture analysis test in your own unique way. But what is important here is also sometimes to look into the fundamental parameters in terms of the mechanical parameters, in terms of elastic modulus, in terms of solid modulus, or the fracture stress. Fracture strain means where it behaves, how the behavior is. People do not do much. Means look into those fundamental way much, because majority of the food scientists does this double compression and try to understand the simple hardness, firmness, this type of way of looking into it.
Hello, thank you. Madam, yeah. Can you take this? Yeah, thank you, Dr. Vasu, for this wonderful lecture.
Thank you, Dr. Shantanu, for enlightening us with your knowledge. And we are really sorry, sir, we started your lecture late, although you joined on time, because of delay in the earlier sessions. Thank you for your patience and the knowledge you shared with us. Thank you, sir. Now I welcome Dr. Soumya Ranjan Purohit. Sir has been a long career and he has been at present assistant professor at Tejpur Central University, Assam. He has more than 5 years of teaching and research experience. Dr. Purohit has completed his doctoral studies at IIT Kharagpur and postdoctoral studies at South Dakota State University, USA. His research interests lies chemistry and technology and food bioprocessing with particular emphasis on sustainability. In short span of short span of career, Dr. Purohit has also been a recipient of the DST Inspire Fellowship for Doctoral Program in 2013, Newton Baba Fellowship from the British Council for Visiting Research Program at the University of Reading, UK in 2017, and South Dakota Soybean Research and Promotion Council for postdoctoral work in 2021. He has published many papers of high impact factor in high quality peer reviewed journals. To his credit, he has many book chapters, as well as he has filed a couple of patents till now. Dr. Purohit has visited many countries to present research outcomes in annual meeting and conferences. He is also an affiliate member of the Royal Society of Chemistry, American Association of Cereal Chemistry, and Society of Chemical Industry. And it has been pleasure to be associated with Dr. Purohit for last 5 years in my personal capacity also. So it's pleasure to invite Dr. Purohit. Welcome, sir.
नहीं नहीं वही ठीक है हाँ खोल लिया ठीक है लिंक खोल लीजिए मैंने इसलिए दोनों भेजा एक बार ट्राई करते स्लाइड शो इसमें आपका बता व्यू हाँ हो गया हाँ Good afternoon, everyone. So it is a pleasure to be back to MIT University again. So before 2 years, I was working here. So it's really a pleasure, and thanks for the opportunity by the organizer for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to speak on this topic. So I think post lunch sessions are always difficult. Everyone must be feeling sleepy. Be boring also, all these technical topics. So let us take it, make it like a general classroom. Let us have a interaction in between instead of having a one way, just vomiting whatever I have in my mind. Okay. So today I'm here to speak about macromolecular complex for glycemic index modification. From the students, audience, from the listener, can anyone tell me about glycemic index? What do you understand by glycemic index? Anyone? All are BTech students or BTech and MSc students? How many are BTech students? Can you please raise your hands? Yeah. You can put down your Instagram and WhatsApp for maybe for 15 minutes. I'll quickly wind up. Okay. So let us have interaction. And how many of you are MSc from MSc Food Science and Nutrition? Okay. So can anyone tell me what do you mean by glycemic index? No idea? Must be knowing, no? Yeah. Yeah, you can speak, sir. I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. Good. So I'll come to this. Before that, let me just introduce from where I am. So I work in Tezpur University, Assam. So it's situated in the northeastern part of the country. Maybe many of you must have visited. Those who have not visited, please do come to northeastern India. And I have also shown one of the most important attraction, that is UNESCO World Heritage Kaziranga National Park. Very, very, very famous for Genda. Okay, rhino. Yeah, single horn rhino. Hindi में बोले तो गेंडा. Okay. So you can see here. So Assam is a the structure of the Assam is a kind of longer one. Okay, slender one. So there are three parts: Lower Assam, Middle Assam, Upper Assam. So Tezpur University is located in middle part of the Assam, and the name Tezpur, it has a very unique meaning. So the word Tej in Sanskrit, it means blood. Okay, and Tezpur means bloodpur. Okay, and the Tezpur place is situated in the district called Sonitpur. In the Assamese language, Sonit means again blood. So everywhere you'll see whatever names are there, you'll find some relation with the blood. So you may ask why Tezpur, Sonitpur, this any kind of relation with blood, because you might have heard about Hara Hari, war between Hara and Hari, Mahadev and Vishnu. So they generally say that this Hara Hari war was happened somewhere in Tezpur. So that's why, because of all this, I would not say mythology, because of all this historical things happened there, the name of that place and the district is like that. Okay. So a little bit about our university. So we have these four schools: School of School of Science, School of Humanities, then School of Management Sciences, School of Engineering. So I belong to the Department of Food Engineering and Technology, which is a constituting department under School of Engineering. So you can see what other departments we have under School of Engineering. And in our department, we do offer BTech, MTech, and PhD in Food Engineering and Technology. We do have food quality control lab, then sophisticated analytical facilities, and a lot of research facilities are available with our department. And apart from that, we have a central research facility also. So that really caters to the need of the students and the research scholars. So coming to my topic, as Sir rightly mentioned, so what is glycemic index? So in a very simple word, how fast carbohydrate is digested in a given time or of a particular food. Okay. So if you see here, I have tried to show you one graph. So you see here the x-axis is time and the y-axis is blood glucose level. So when you consume something, how fast the carbohydrate gets digested to the, because in you take any of the food, you will find different kinds of carbohydrate like polysaccharide, monosaccharide, disaccharide, oligosaccharide, and the major constituent is polysaccharide. Okay, if you consider any starch rich food, okay, because that is a polysaccharide. So you may ask me a question here. There is a question that why do we cook rice? What is the importance of cooking rice? Why can't we consume raw rice? Because we cannot consume, the problem here is if you consume the raw rice, it is not possible to digest, right? Because our enzyme, amylolytic enzyme present in the intestine, it cannot hydrolyze starch. It cannot hydrolyze raw starch or native starch. So that's why some cooking is required so that the starch is prone to digestion or hydrolysis by the enzyme. So when that enzyme start acting on starch, what happens? It keep on hydrolyzing the polysaccharide and breaking down into simpler monomeric glucose. Okay, and that blood glucose level is shown here in the y-axis. So if the blood glucose level is increasing very fast, if the hydrolysis is happening very fast, so what will happen? The blood glucose level will increase very fast. Okay, so you can see this red line. This is a food, the behavior of a glycemic hydrolysis behavior of a food, where you can see within 1 hour, see the blood glucose level is rising very fast and gradually it is falling down. On the other hand, you can see that orange line, which is slightly increased and is continued for a longer period of time. Okay, so how fast a particular food or a starchy food is getting digested, that actually identify is glycemic behavior. Okay, so based on that, if the glycemic score or the glycemic index varies from 0 to 55, that is a low glycemic index food. If that varies from 55 to 70, that is a medium glycemic food. And if that varies from above 70, so that is a high glycemic food. For example, rice, that is a high glycemic food. Okay, fruits and vegetable, they will fall under medium or low glycemic food. Okay, so you can see here what I was talking about: low glycemic, medium glycemic, high glycemic food. So I have taken this picture from the internet, so you can easily get it and get to know what are the foods, categorized under which category. So as I was talking about this carbohydrate, so when I tell that a starch-rich food or starchy food, so means what is the composition of starch? Starch consists of amylose and amylopectin. Amylose is a linear polymer of alpha-D glucose, and your amylopectin is a branched polymer, right? I hope all of you know about these things, so I will not repeat much on this. So I was talking about this cooking of the rice. So when you cook rice, what exactly happens? Okay, the the texture of the rice gets softened, right? Because initially, if you take the raw rice, that is hard texture, not easy to consume. If you cook, what will happen? There will be softening of the texture. So that is the change happening in the physics. But what kind of chemical change is happening within the starch? Because starch present in the form of granules. So you can see here, this is scanning electron micrograph of starch granule. So when you keep cooking or keep heating rice or starch in the presence of water, what will happen? The native granular structure of the starch gets changes. You can see there is a complete deformation of the granular structure. Okay. And in the right side, I have shown the X-ray diffractogram of the starch. So as you can see, the bottom one where it is written as raw, so that is the X-ray diffractogram of uncooked or the raw rice. The upper one is the X-ray diffractogram of the cooked rice, okay, or the pre-gelatinized rice. So when you cook rice, what happens? The crystallinity nature of the starch that get degraded, okay. So it will become more amorph. I'll come to this amorphous and crystalline nature. I'll come to that, okay. So when this happens, why you are cooking? The main purpose is to make the rice digestible. So literally you are trying to increase the digestibility. How you are increasing the digestibility of starch? By depolymerizing or decrystallizing the starch crystals. Okay. Again, if you classify starch, like how fast starch is getting digested, so that is one way is glycemic index. The other way, if you want to classify starch on the basis of hydrolysis behavior, you will be able to classify starch into 3 categories. Okay, so first one will be the starch fraction that is getting digested within 20 minutes of your consumption, that will fall under rapidly digested starch or rapidly digestible starch, RDS. Anything getting digested between 20 minutes to 120 minutes, okay, 20 minutes to 2 hours, so that will fall under slowly digestible starch. Okay, anything remaining undigestible or getting digested after 120 hours, sorry, after 120 minutes, sorry, I mean after 2 hours, okay, so that is known as resistant starch. Means more typically that is enzyme resistant starch, means that is resistance to enzymatic hydrolysis. Okay, again, if you want to focus more, magnify this resistant starch, you can further classify resistant starch into 5 category. Initially it was 4 category, now one more category is added. So first one, you can see physically entrapped starch. Like for example, you have a starch granule. Say you are going to coat the starch granule with some protein or fat. Okay, means you are going to entrap the starch so that it cannot directly interact with the enzyme and the hydrolysis can be discouraged. Okay, so that kind of starch is known as RS1 type starch, resistant starch type 1. Then what is resistant starch type 2? Naturally available. Okay, so for example, raw rice, that is slowly digestible. The glycemic index of the raw rice is less, cooked rice is high. Okay, so why that is? Because initially it has RS2 type of resistant starch, which doesn't get digested quickly, but once you cook, digestibility increase. As I shown here, as you keep on cooking, the gelatinization of the starch will happen and the digestibility will increase. Okay, similarly, there is another important type of resistant starch, that is RS3 type, resistant starch type 3, that is retrograded starch. Retrograded means, I'll come to that, I'll explain what is that retrograded starch. Another one is RS4 or resistant starch type 4. So that is chemically modified starch. If you modify the starch, adding some extra chemical functional group or chemical group, so digestibility of starch get modified. Okay, but that is not always preferred. There are many industrial applications, but there are a lot of regulation to use chemically modified starch. Okay, and the 5th type of resistant starch is RS5, resistant starch type 5, and that is amylolipid complex. So when amylose and lipids, they combine together, they form a complex, some kind of intercalating complex, and that complex is also show some kind of slow digestibility behavior. Okay, so that takes longer time to digest it. So that is classified as a RS5, resistant starch 5, right? So here I would like to explain what is this retrogradation. So before you understand retrogradation, you need to understand what is gelatinization. Okay, so gelatinization is simply in the presence of sufficient heat, okay, and sufficient moisture, starch granule will swell. Actually, this is an animation, but I think with Google slide, I will not be able to present that. So I'll just explain. So when that heated up, that granule swells in size, and amylose and amylopectin that comes out to the medium. Okay, or they get loosened. The crystal nature of that starch breaks down. Okay, but again, further when you cool it down, what will happen? That actually recrystallize the starch. So the starch, or the resistant starch formed because of the recrystallization of starch because of the lower temperature and the higher moisture, that is known as RS3 type starch or retrograded starch. Okay, so this retrograded starch, and this one you can see, this I have tried to represent what is RS5. So you can see, this blue color cylindrical structure, this you can consider as a lipid molecule. Okay, and this kind of helical structure, right-handed alpha helical structure of starch. So when they combines together, fat molecule enters inside the right-handed alpha helix of the amylose molecule, and that forms a amylolipid complex. Okay, and this complex is also slowly digestible in nature. So if you see here, we got to know about RS1, RS2, RS3, RS4, RS5. So out of this 5, if you see, from the food processing and nutritional point of view, you will find that RS1, RS3 and RS5 are the important type of resistant starch that are really useful for our purpose. Okay. So any kind of treatment you do, so RS1 is means entrapping starch with some other molecule, maybe protein, fat, or any other kind of molecule. Okay. RS3 is by degradation. RS5 is amylolipid complex. So how RS1, RS3 and RS5 can be achieved? That can be achieved by different treatment method, maybe heating, hydrothermal method, some kind of encapsulation. So there are different processing methods are there through which these three type of RS resistant starch can be achieved, and the glycemic load or the glycemic index of the particular food product can be reduced. Okay. So here I would like to highlight one point. Here we must understand when we are discussing about hydrolysis behavior of starch. So if you see here, I have shown the right one. Do you have a pointer? Or is it okay? It's visible, right? Yeah, I'll use it. So this particular image, you can see there is an alternate pattern. Okay, there is a white, then there is a black pattern, there is a white pattern and a black pattern. You can see this black one compactly packed and the white pattern is loosely packed. Okay. So this loose packing is because of presence of more of amylase, amylose, okay, that is amorphous in nature. And the other one, the dark pattern you are able to see, that is because of presence of lot of amylopectin, okay. So that actually creates a crystalline nature of the starch. So because there is an presence of both crystal and amorph nature, starch is also known as having to possess semi-crystalline behavior. Okay, neither amorphous nor a pure crystal. It's a semi-crystalline behavior. So if you just take in a starch and go for X-ray diffraction study, diffractogram will tell you that in a diffractogram you will find in the x-axis you will find different 2 theta. 2 theta means how X-ray is coming, at what angle it is coming, and at what angle it is going. So the total angle, 2 theta angle will be there. Okay, and in the y-axis you will find intensity, like what is the when X-ray is falling. So if there is amorph nature, what will happen? On amorphous, X-ray will pass through. If there is a crystal, what will happen? X-ray will diffract. Okay, so you can see what is the intensity of that diffraction. So that you will be able to see in the y-axis. So based on this, what will happen? So if you take say raw rice, so this particular image is for the raw rice. Okay, the top one, the image at the top one here. So you will see at 2 theta 16, 2 theta 17, 2 theta 18. Okay, then one is very small peak at 20, another peak at 24 somewhere. Okay, so this kind of peaks that you are getting, so this is because of a strong diffraction of X-ray. Why there is a strong diffraction of X-ray? Because of presence of crystals. Okay, similarly you can see here in the bottom image you will find some more peaks here. Okay, you may find another peak at somewhere around 17, another here you can find one peak somewhere close to 5, another peak close to 23. You can also find some peak near to 20, another one here somewhere in 13.5. So you will over that peaks you will find some letters are there, A, B, V. Okay, so this A means A type crystal. Okay, type A crystal. B means type B crystal and V means type V crystal. Okay, so what do you mean by V type crystal? V type crystal means crystal formed because of the interaction of amylose and lipid, that is V type crystal. So if there is a V diffraction at 12 or 20 or say somewhere around 7.5, so if there is a peak in the diffractogram, that confirms that your starch contains amylolipid complex. Okay, then also there are some A and B type. So the difference between A and B type crystal is how water and starch is interacting with each other. Based on that, this classification is there. Okay, so B type crystal means there will be a starch crystal, around that there will be a lot of water molecule. Okay, and A type crystal means there will be water molecule, around that lot of starch molecules, starch granules will be there. Okay, so these are different type of crystals. So for our purpose, if you want to produce a product, okay, if you want to develop a product with low glycemic behavior, what should be the starch profile? What should be the different category of starch that should be present in that food? It should contain low rapidly digestible starch, it should have more slowly digestible starch, and it should have more resistant starch. Okay. So to understand this relationship between this starch crystal and resistant starch formation, a small study was conducted. I have 5 minutes more. Yeah. So this is a small experiment we conducted to understand relationship between starch crystal, okay, and resistant starch formation. What is the relationship between these two? So one thing we understood, that if more crystals are there, glycemic index will be less. That is one thing. But what kind of crystal? What should be the behavior? What should be the size of the crystal? What should be the perfection of that crystal? To understand all this, inside of starch crystal, we did one small study. So we followed a full factorial experimental design. We took parboiled rice, okay, with crystallinity ranging from 9.6 to 11. So we ensured in the raw material. Then these are the independent variables we took, okay. Moisture content, we varied from 15% to 35% dry basis. Heating time from 0 to 3 hours. And we heated one at 80 degrees Celsius, the other set of sample at 120 degrees Celsius. And in the response, we measured crystal size of that starch crystal, okay. Then crystal perfection and resistant starch content. And here, in this study, I'm going to elaborate only about the RS5 type, okay. I mean the V type crystal, which is formed because of the complexation of amylose and lipid. So whatever crystal size, crystal perfection that I'm going to discuss, that will be solely V type crystal, amylolipid complex crystal, okay. So here you can see, when we heated the sample at 80 degrees Celsius, what happened? We found two peaks, two V type peaks, okay. One will be at the 2 theta 20 degree, the other one at 2 theta 13.5 degree, okay. So you can see the crystal size we have measured and presented in the y-axis in mm. So you can see it varies from 0.1 to around 0.3 mm in that range, okay, when we treated at 80 degree. And there were only two V type peaks. Other type peaks were there, other A and B type peaks were there, but only two V type peaks were there, okay. V type means I am referring to this one. This peak, particular peak was there at 80 degrees Celsius, and this particular peak was there, okay. V type. Then further, when we heated 120 degrees Celsius, what happened? You can see another new peak emerged. That is the peak at 7.5. So when we heated the sample at 120 degrees Celsius, we found this particular peak also. This particular peak at 7.5. Okay. And you can see the crystal size of the peak, crystal size of the crystal that is diffracting at 2 theta 7.5, the crystal size is more. You can see it varies somewhere from 0.5 to 0.7 mm. On the other hand, the crystal size of other two peaks diffracting at 13.5 and 20, it varies from 0.1 to 0.3. Then we also estimated the resistant starch, and we got all these values, okay. So you can see this one, this is the control untreated one. So resistant starch content was somewhere around 5%. And when we treated at different temperature, so we found that around, you can increase the resistant starch content up to 30%, okay. Then we did the correlation analysis to understand the relationship. So you can see here in this column, in the first column, all the parameters are there. We measured the crystal size and crystal perfection and resistant starch, okay. So you may ask me how you measure. So by using Scherer formula, you can, using the different parameters from the X-ray diffraction pattern, and what is the height of the peak and what is the width of the peak. From that we can find out the perfection of the crystal, okay. So based on that, we calculated all these parameters and we performed the correlation analysis that gave all these results. You can see the bottom line, just see the resistance starch line, okay, the last line. You will be able to see that there is a higher correlation, positive correlation of resistant starch with crystal perfection of the crystal diffracting at 2 theta 13 and crystal perfection of crystal diffracting at 2 theta 20, followed by the crystal perfection of the crystal diffracting at 2 theta 7.5. Okay. Similarly, if you go to the crystal size, you'll be able to understand the crystal size of the crystal, okay, that is diffracting at 2 theta 13. You know that you will see the highest positive correlation of 0.70, followed by 0.56 for crystal size diffracting at 2 theta 20 and 0.39 for crystal size diffracting at 2 theta angle 7.5. So from here you can conclude that the crystal perfection of the crystal diffracting at 2 theta 13 and 20, they are more important compared to the crystal perfection of the crystal diffracting at 2 theta 7.5. So perfection is more important than crystal size. Okay. So that's what the conclusion. So crystal diffracted at 2 theta 13 contribute maximum towards resistance charge formation, followed by crystal diffracting at 2 theta 20 and 7.5. Okay. And one more conclusion I would like to highlight here. Crystal perfection is more important than crystal size. So that's all from my side. I'll be happy to answer if you have any question. Thank you. So if there are no question, I'm even happier. Post lunch session must be some of must be sleeping, some must be using Instagram, WhatsApp. That I understand. When I teach, I know what happens at the back bench. It's okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pro Purohit, for sharing knowledge on, in such a detail and such a detailed research topic particularly. So we are thankful for you have come specifically for this session from Tejpur in person and share your knowledge and give your valuable time. Now, I would request the representative from Orica, Vasundhara, to be pleased on stage. And this is the startup session, so they will be sharing their experiences with us. So, Vasundhara, thank you.
So, very good afternoon, everybody. I'm not going to take much of your time, just 5 minutes. We are all here today on behalf of Orica. Most of you must have already heard about us. And for those of you who haven't, we are a startup. I'd like to take the opportunity to tell you a little bit about our startup. It was launched in 2018 by Miss Akshata Buddhi Raja, who's the owner, along with the support of Mr. Paras Buddhi Raja and the entire family. So the whole sole purpose of this startup and the idea behind this was to find quick modern solutions to day-to-day hassles in the kitchen. Like all of us today are, most of us are working, some of us don't like cooking. So it's an easy solution to all these hassles. That's how Miss Akshata thought of this idea and, got something together to present to everybody outside. This thing has made cooking very easy and very interesting in today's day-to-day life where we are all so occupied. We as a brand keep experimenting and keep, up to beat with what is trending, right from the peri-peris to we are there on top of it all the time. The main USP of this brand, I would say, is that we sustainably source all our ingredients and the raw material we bring is right from the origin. So I'll give you an example. The haldi we have is from Salem. The black pepper is from Malabar. And our products usually mention it. So the black pepper we have, it mentions Malabar black pepper. So that's one of the USPs. Our parent company is Paras Spices, which most of you must have already heard. We've been here for over 40 years, and you all must have tried it in some way or the other, but might not be aware of it. For example, the Maggi we all have been eating, we all have been brought up eating. This Maggi masala comes from Paras spices. Then the Domino's pizzas we all have. Next time, I suggest the sachets you guys get along with your pizzas, your Italian seasoning, and the chili flakes. Just turn the sachet around and see it says manufactured by Paras spices. So we've been here in this field for over 40 years, and we are very proud to say that we are providing ingredients to one of the major giants in India today, Nestle, Domino's, and many more. So I would not want to take more of your time. We are in a wide range of products, right from sprinklers, marinades, basic masalas, blends, beverages. We have it all. So to give it a try, we also have put a cart outside today, so you all can try some of our products. We have a menu designed specially for you all, where we've made certain items using our products. So give it a try, go shop around, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Vasundhara, for introducing Orica as a brand to us and our students, and just sharing the history behind it. So now all of us will go and I myself will just see the just turn around the chili flakes that we get from Domino's and see Paras spices being there. Now I would request Miss Shivani to come and share her story. I am very proud to call Shivani on the stage. She is one of our alumni, and she has just passed out in 2020, and she has been associated with us that was during the Corona time that she has started her industry, and she has been quite successful, and she has already received she has been recipient of many state government awards, even the best woman entrepreneur also. So she is basically an inspiration for all the students who are passing out from AIFT, and specifically our girl candidates, because they always say that how we can go and pursue in the field of entrepreneurship. So she is a live example. So her brand is Abrosa. Now I welcome her, not taking more of time. She will share her success story. Welcome, Shivani.
Very good afternoon, everyone present over here. My name is Shivani Bundela, and I am a ex-alumni from Amity University, pass out 2020, as ma'am told. Basically, ये journey जो हम लोगों ने start की थी, I started this from after the COVID wave hit, and हमारी final internships चल रही थी और in BT Fine Foods, और फिर हम सब अपने अपने घर पहुंचे. We were at our homes, and we were deciding कि now what to do. We do not know कि lockdown कब खत्म होगा, कैसे होगा. तो वी स्टार्टेड वर्किंग ऑन द सोर्स ऑफ विटामिन सी, कि ऐसा क्या कर सकते हैं कि हमें सोर्स ऑफ विटामिन सी मिले. एंड बेसिकली आई एम फ्रॉम अ एग्रीकल्चर बैकग्राउंड, लाइक माय कंप्लीट एंटायर फैमिली मेंबर्स आर फ्रॉम डिफरेंट सोर्स ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर. और जो बुंदेलखंड रीजन है वहाँ पे यूजली होता है ड्राउट प्रोन एरिया है, इफेक्टेड है, कि ड्यू टू सम और द अदर रीजंस वहाँ पे आपका जो एग्रीकल्चर है वो ग्रोथ नहीं कर पाता है. सो दिस इज हाउ कि इट केम अप कि कुछ ऐसे प्रोडक्ट्स पे काम करना चाहिए जो कि वाटर पे या क्लाइमेटिक कंडीशंस पे डिपेंड ना करें. तो बेसिकली वी स्टार्टेड विद द कल्टीवेशन एंड वैल्यू एडिशन ऑफ इंडियन जुजुबी बेर. हो सकता है काफियों को बेर फ्रूट के बारे में ना पता हो. दिस इज द सुपर फ्रूट जो चाइना में, कनाडा में, यूके में हर जगह रिकॉग्नाइज्ड एज अ सुपर फ्रूट, बिकॉज इट इज हाई सोर्स ऑफ विटामिन सी, फॉस्फोरस, फाइबर, जिंक, सेलेनियम. और जो हमारे इंडिया में और मेजरली बुंदेलखंड में काफी होने के बाद भी बहुत ही निग्लेक्टेड सेक्टर में आता है. तो वी डेवलप प्रोडक्ट आउट ऑफ इट. और उसके बाद वी डेवलप द वर्ल्ड फर्स्ट बेर इन्फ्यूज डार्क चॉकलेट, बेर स्प्रेड, बेर मिलेट कुकीज, एंड लॉट ऑफ प्रोडक्ट्स आउट ऑफ बेर फ्रूट. We collaborated with more than 250 farmers in the local region and procured the products from there to develop the product. और जो हमारा पहला क्लाइंट था वो था नाबार्ड, जो कि दिवाली फर्स्ट 2021 में हमें मिला. उसके बाद वी केप्ट ऑन वर्किंग ऑन द कॉर्पोरेट क्लाइंटेज. तो आदित्य बिरला ग्रुप, UP Global Invest Summit, Yota Agro Ventures, Varada Manpower, Admit Card. These were the corporate clients we converted for the corporate giftings of our product. And I'm like very proud to say that I am a social entrepreneur who is working in collaboration with farmers and developing some products which are very healthy, as well as lifting the lost glory of our Indian superfruit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all. It was really heartwarming to actually see the struggles and the student success that are being passed out from the AIFT, Amity University. So here we are reaching out to the end of the technical session too. So I would request Dr. Manoj K. Patel, sir, to kindly conclude the session. Yes, sir. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, sorry. So there is some urgent meeting, so I was just discussing. No problem. So thank you so much. This session was very interesting. There were 3 talks, 2 from academics and 1 from startups. In startups, there were 2 speakers. One from representing Abrosa and second one representing Orica. So these 2 were very interesting, and some academic talk was by Dr. Purohit. So especially for student, there was one slide जिसमें आपको ज्यादा ध्यान देना चाहिए, जो कि रिसर्च स्कॉलर नॉर्मली मिस करते हैं. आप कोई बता सकता है मैं उस किस स्लाइड की बात कर रहा हूँ? लास्ट में मैं चलो हिंट दे देता हूँ. लास्ट स्टडी के जस्ट सम ऑब्जेक्टिव के नीचे था. क्या था वो पता है? डिजाइन ऑफ एक्सपेरिमेंट्स. ओके, दिस इज वेरी मच नेसेसरी फॉर एनी स्टूडेंट. जब भी कोई आप रिसर्च करते हैं, यूजुअली क्या करते हैं हम लोग, पहले काम करना शुरू करते हैं, बाद में ऑब्जेक्टिव हो जाते हैं, थीसिस भी लिख जाती है. करेक्ट होना क्या चाहिए, शुरू में ही सब कुछ डिसाइड किया जाता है, क्या वेरिएबल्स रहेंगे, क्या डिपेंडेंट होगा, क्या इंडिपेंडेंट होगा, देन यू फॉर्मुलेट सम डिजाइन ऑफ एक्सपेरिमेंट. हमारे यहाँ उल्टा चलता है, सो अवॉइड करें थोड़ा सा. और डिजाइन ऑफ एक्सपेरिमेंट एक बार डिसाइड हो गया, देन मेथोडोलॉजी, नथिंग इज देयर, ऑलमोस्ट 80 to 90% thesis over. Okay, so you just concentrate on that. And this is from my side. The session was very interesting, and one talk was from Santanu Basu. Of course, it was very elaborated, and for me it was very interesting. So thank you so much, and I request for both of them.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Now I would like Dr. Manoj K. Patel, sir, to facilitate Dr. Samyaranjan Purohit. No, sir, it's okay. Thank you so much, sir, for the interactive session. Now, I would request Professor Dr. V.K. Modi, sir, to kindly facilitate Dr. Manoj K. Patel, sir. Now, I would like to call upon stage Ms. Shivangi from Abrosa to facilitate. Sorry, Ms. Shivani from Abrosa for the facilitation. We are very glad, and this is a token of appreciation from AIFT for the efforts. Yes. And I would also like to call Ms. Vasundhara from Orica. You have been really kind enough to be associated with us for this AMIFOST 2023. So this is from AIFT. So thank you so much all. Now I would like to call Dr. Neha Sharma for the vote of thanks.
It has been a pleasure during this technical session. We had eminent speaker Dr. Shantanu and Dr. Purohit with us. So I would like to thank Dr. Shantanu and Dr. Purohit for giving enlightening talks to us. I would also like to thank our session chair Dr. Mahendra Patel for giving his valuable time and being associated with us. I would thank for this particular session. I would also like to thank the volunteers and the conveners and the MC Dr. Ankita with me. Along with that, it has been a pleasure to have all the audiences. You keep your patience even after the post lunch session. So thanks to all of you. And I would also like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor and our Founder President Sir for for their guidance and support throughout throughout the conduction of this, not only this technical session but this whole conference, 2 days conference. Thank you all of you. And now I would request all of you to please proceed for the high tea. It's in the same where we have morning tea as well as the lunch. So I request all of you to please move to F2 block. Thank you all of you.